Okay, we're going to get started with some quick housekeeping and then judge paradigms, because it is 2 and this one we're scheduled to start. The last finals competitor joins during the next 5 minutes. It's perfectly fine. They can still compete. So anyway, so hi guys, I'm Joey Rubis. You might know me. I'm one of the 3 directors here of this tournament, along with the wonderful Jimmy Bake and William Tong. William, who will be our finals tournament presiding officer. I want to say thank you for everyone for being here, especially our judges for dedicating time out of their day to help make this tournament a possibility. I also want to say make sure you go donate to our charity, our fundraiser for the Trevor Project. It's a super important foundation doing a lot of really important work. You'll notice throughout the summer all of our finals rounds have one mental health bill. That's because one of our focuses for this summer is focusing on the mental health initiative. So the Trevor Project does a lot of work, especially with LGBTQ youth who struggle with mental health issues, help fight a lot of those systemic barriers, and the work they do is really amazing. Obviously, no one is required to donate. This is a free tournament, but the work they do is really amazing. So we encourage you, if you have the money or if you want to talk to your parents, to try and make a contribution, because the work they do is really amazing, and we want to show our support for them. But with that out of the way, I'll hand it off to our 3 judges to give their paradigms. I think we'll end with the parliamentarian in traditional fashion. So Senator Donthula, not Senator, Judge Donthula, you can go first.
Actually, I'm like moving across my house. So is it cool if I go second?
Yeah, sure. Judge Gutierrez?
All right, sure. Hi, everyone. My name's William. I do know some of you. I might have judged you like in prelims, or I might have competed with you earlier. I guess the big thing for me is clash. Every speech after the authorship should have clash, right? Interactive over arguments is called congressional debate, not congressional oratory. I expect the debate aspect of it. After that, just remember that no matter where you speak, you have just as much of an ability to get the 1, right, or to do well, right? Like, I will grade a great authorship the same way that I will grade a great crystal. Just know your place within the round and go from there. Like, I expect the round to follow, offers, constructives, and whatnot, and go all the way down to crystals, right? Follow that and just know your place no matter where you are. Don't be worried if if I give an authorship, I'm not gonna do well. Like, no matter where you go, just as long as you perform your job, you'll do well with me.
Perfect. Judge Donthula?
Hey guys, my name is Apra, but I guess I'm Judge Donthula for this round, which is weird to say. If you want to do well on my ballot, I care mostly about content, but I do think that especially in pretty tense rounds, speaking plays a large role, and it can often be a determinant between getting a high rank or a low one. So make sure that you have vocal variation. If you want to give a passionate speech, it shouldn't be 100% all of the time. In terms of content, staying on topic with the round is super important. Adapting your speech is very important. If you prep something and that's not how the debate goes, I understand that it can be hard to completely restart your prep, but you have to find a way to make it linked to what the round is talking about. Otherwise, you don't play a role on my ballot, pretty simply. Besides that, make sure to stay calm and respectful and understand that some people are affected by nerves more than others, and that is not an excuse to be rude or to be inconsiderate. So keep that in mind and have fun.
Perfect, thank you. And finally, Parliamentarian Chen?
Hi, my name is Nick. I've seen most of you speak, or I've debated with you over the past 4 years. I echo my 2 judges in the paradigm: argumentation, interaction with the round. Most of all, I think all of you guys know how to do good debate because you're in finals, so I expect to see good debate. In terms of judging, I'd say I'm about, 80% content, 20% delivery. So delivery is a good tiebreaker, but I'm mostly content oriented.
Perfect, thank you, Nick. And you will notice on your form, I think it'll only have you ranked top 8. So for the remainder, just DM those to me, Jimmy, or William, just so we can keep those for tiebreakers if we need them. But anyways, with all that out of the way, I'll hand it over to our esteemed tournament PO, the TOC Finals 2nd place PO, Mr. William Tong. Everyone give a hand for him.
Wait, Mr. Chong, just 1 second. One thing before we hand it over to our esteemed guest presiding or in-house tournament presiding officer, could everyone follow the same naming convention? So one exemplar will be Senator Biram, just SEN dot your last name, just so that the judges can keep better track of who's who. Yeah, thanks guys.
And feel free to put your pronouns in there as well.
Really quickly, I want to say this before the round starts. Please wait for me to give you an indication that I'm ready. Ask me if I forgot it at some point, but I have pretty bad Wi-Fi, so it's important.
Right. With that, I will take over. Now, I've been working on speaking a lot over the summer, so I might be a tiny bit rusty on my appealing, but I'm sure we'll get through this round just fine. Like the other two directors mentioned, my name is William Tong. I will be your tournament presiding officer for today. Just in the interest of time, I won't go through everything with procedure, but a couple of things to highlight. We're going to be using a preset recency that Joey randomized and made. So there will be a speaking recency, and I'll go off that order. And then for questioning, I will go in the reverse order. And then obviously everything else is mostly the same. Times for speeches, still 2 minutes, 2:30, 2:55. At 3 minutes and 5 seconds, I will hold up both hands and then count you down to 3:15. And then I'll verbally cut you off there. For questioning, do remember that in finals, we're going to have 1 minute blocks of cross-examination, and that is direct cross. We're only going to have 2 such blocks for each speech. So even for the sponsor and the first negation, just 2 blocks, and that will still follow precedence and recency. With that, I'll give you a 30-second card in the middle, and at 55 seconds, I will go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cut you off verbally immediately after. Let me send my spreadsheet for precedence and recency in chat. Just let me know if you can't see that or if you can. I have the legislation linked on here on the second page, just in case you need to look at that. For our judges as well, let me know if you need anything with that. I'm going to be running an open chamber, so feel free to leave in between speeches. I will ask, however, that no more than 2 senators are gone at a time, just so we can respect our fellow competitors and the judges. Oh my, someone just dropped out of the call. That's not good. I think it was Judge Chen. So, Joey, could you? All right, I'm going to finish, but we're going to wait for him before we actually start the round. And then lastly, I'd just like to add, feel free to time yourself as long as it's okay with the judges. Just remember that my time signals do take precedence. And finally, if you freeze or are rendered otherwise completely inaudible, more than 7 consecutive seconds during your speech, I'm going to stop my timer, let you know first in the chat, then verbally that you're frozen, and then we're going to go from there. I'm going to send that preset recency in the chat as well. Give me 1 moment. And in the meantime, are there any questions?
Parliamentarian Chen said he'll be back in just a second.
We can do some of the. Okay, Senator Wilkes.
So is the preset recency being disclosed to the chamber?
It's in the chat.
Just put in chat.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Is the preset recency just for the first bill or both of them?
Well, after the first bill, we will theoretically, assuming everyone speaks, then we'll have that set. Obviously, if someone chooses not to speak on the first bill, they'll have precedence. Right.
So yeah, if you're used to the way they did it in IHSA state finals, this is a little different because we don't have preset recencies for each bill. There's only the one for the first, and then it'll be set based on speaking order. Anyway, our parliamentarian is back, so.
Right.
Sorry about that, y'all. I should be good now.
Okay, great. With that, any other questions? If not, I'll unilaterally open the floor for docket nominations. Are there any such nominations? Senator Bureau.
I move to nominate docket A, consisting of First Citizens United, followed by the Mental Health Bill.
All right. So first, Citizens, and then Mental Health. Any other nominations? Senator Edevalapagi.
Motion to nominate docket B, which is comprised of first the Mental Health Bill, and then after that, the Constitution to overturn Citizens United.
Obviously, those are the only 2 that we can have, so I'll close the floor. Now we're going to vote on the 2 dockets. So docket A is Citizens United first, then the mental health bill, and then docket B is mental health, then Citizens United. All right, everyone who wants to vote for docket A, please raise your placard and keep it up. Right. All right, I count Fan, Lee, Bodapalli, Delgado, Malella, Mu, Biram, Wilkes, Liang. Right, that is 9. And then everyone who wants to vote for docket B, which is the reverse. Right, Edavalapati, that's 1. And then am I correct in saying we have 10, 10 competitors? All right then. Obviously that's a clear majority, so we're going to start with Citizens United. Okay, with that, I'll open the floor for debate. Do we have any sponsors? Sponsorships, first affirmations. The chair would entertain, or Senator Liang.
I thank the chair. Hi, everyone. I'm Senator Liang, speaking for the first time in this session. I will be timing myself on my own device. And as always, I'm at the leisure of all those above me. Please give me an indication whenever you all are ready. Okay. In the most recent 2020 election, the month of October alone had super PACs and other big money groups total nearly $1.2 billion in spending towards the election, which greatly boosted both Joe Biden's Democratic campaign and his Democratic platform, which is why I propose this bill today. The point of an election is to make sure that the citizens of our country get a fair say in electing our president. However, if we allow corporations to donate huge amounts of money into this means that we are unfairly skewing the elections by allowing corporations to use their money and power to influence the election. First, let's look at how corporations have a lot of influence by an article from The Conversation in 2020, which states that political spending by corporations is big business. As one corporate executive with experience in business government relations says, a company that is dependent on the government, that does not donate to politicians, is engaging in corporate malpractice. A research group heard that a statement during a series of interviews with industry insiders that were conducted for a study on corporate political strategy and involvement in US politics says, in the 2018 election cycle, for example, private interests spent $500 million on campaign contributions and nearly $7 billion to lobby federal officials. This means that corporations are spending a lot of money and effort onto this, which allows a risk of not electing a good candidate, as Oxford study elaborates. As the next election approaches, corporate involvement in state politics is vital to understand. Companies' attempts to manage state regulations have important effects on their operations directly, as well as on state revenues and on the lives of state residents. Corporations can affect the air that you breathe, the water that you drink, and the taxes that you pay. Taken together, corporate involvement in state politics is an important phenomenon. In addition to providing needed products and services, corporations bring jobs and increased investment to states, which can strengthen communities and state economies. However, their operations can also bring health and environmental problems for state representatives. This means that by allowing big operations to use their money and influence freely to lobby in elections, it becomes not a free election of the people, but a chess game controlled by big corporations. So today, join me in affirming our bill so we can turn our country's elections back into the free democratic process that they were supposed to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. Any and all. That will go first to Senator Biram.
Hey, Senator, so does passing this legislation get rid of super PACs?
No.
Why?
This legislation only limits their ability to invest in elections. It's not doing anything to the organization themselves.
So like, why is that a positive thing?
Because this means that they're not able to influence the election the way they want it to be.
Like, my question is, why are super PACs uniquely harmful?
Because they have a lot of money and influence that they can put into elections.
So what specifically do they do, like, for elections?
They contribute money to specific candidates that they want in order to help with their campaign, and they also contribute money to lobby for issues that these candidates support.
So do they like advertise? Like, what do they specifically do for elections?
They most often donate money to the candidate that they would like to support.
So like, why is that a bad thing? Like, why is that inherently not good?
Thank you. Any other questioners? Senator Lee.
Great speech, Representative. So what exactly do corporations gain by donating to these politicians?
Well, they probably get more political sway if the politicians recognize that they're getting support from a big corporation.
What aspects of political dominance do they gain?
Well, if a corporation wanted to take a stance on a current like hot topic, such as like automation or something else that is being debated, they could ask, or they could, like, I guess, pull in a favor.
I yield the rest of my.
Chair absorbs. We do have 26 seconds remaining. Anyone like to take that? If not, we'll move on. I thank the speaker. We're now in line for speech on negation. Speakers, please raise your placards. All right, Senator Wilkes, unopposed.
I thank the chair. Hi, everybody. Wilkes, W-I-L-K-E-S. For the pronunciation, the E is silent. Get my timer out. While I'm doing that, is anybody not ready? Okay, I'll give you 1 second. Okay, cool. In 1789, the first presidential election of the United States took place. And sometime between now and then, the political system has become a game of corporate influence, not reflecting the will of the people. But as history is being written on the floor of this Senate, it is imperative our priorities are finally set straight. But that's why you side with a negation. First off, I'd like to clarify what happens to these big bad lobbyist groups that Senator Liang talks about. There are two reasons why they will still have power in our government, even after you pass this bill. First is the revolving door. This is where companies will provide a high-paying position to politicians after they leave office in return for political influence. Public Citizen wrote on May 30th of 2019 that 2/3 of former members of the 115th Congress were a part of this revolving door concept. This bill doesn't legislate around this. Thus, dangerous PACs and super PACs that Senator Liang talks about will still have power. Second is congressmen owning stocks. They'll often purchase shares of a big oil company and then legislate in ways that then give them money by empowering that industry. The American Prospect wrote on January 10th of 2020 that members of Congress own $93 million in fossil fuel stocks. And because of this, fossil fuel companies rarely have bills passed that limit their growth. Again, this bill does not legislate around these issues. This means that any significant fallback of this legislation the negation can prove outweighs the very minimal benefit of the affirmative. Fail this legislation because it gets rid of beneficial political donations. The problem with Senator Liang is she characterized all PACs as bad PACs. That is not what the status quo looks like. Open Secret's political donations database found that there are thousands of political donation groups that fight for affordable healthcare, the environment, accessible education, police reform, affordable housing, women's rights, and a trillion other things that we all can agree are important and good. They do this with direct cash that this bill gets rid of. The problem with this legislation is when that happens and political donations are hereby banned, all these benefits of these groups are gone. Why are those groups so important? They help solve the biggest problems our country currently faces. The Stanford Social Innovation Review concludes that these good lobbyist groups that I talk about have played an extremely crucial role in passing monumental policy like climate change and women's rights bills. My colleagues are all pretty cool people, but to be completely honest, I don't trust that we'll pass these important policies without the financial incentive to do so. Don't get rid of it with your affirmative vote, because for decades, politicians have acted in the interests of the few and to the detriment of the many. Don't let the first crux of our democracy also be the first to fall.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 3 minutes and 4 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. Any and all questioners. The chair highly recommends the individual's question. Thank you, Senator Edevalapati.
Thank you. Let's take past President Senator Wilkes, right? Do you know which industry helped President Trump the most?
Which one was it?
It was the oil industry, right? And as soon as he comes into office, he has this like big priority to where it's like helping the oil industry. Aren't we at least taking one of those avenues out, and then we can think about the other two avenues later?
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that like they'll have 100% power after you're passed, but I'm saying they're still going to have a lot of power. So the marginal harm of getting rid of good like political corporations that I talk about are gone, and that
Okay,
outweighs.
but what I'm saying is if we can come closer to making sure that we have a fair election where everyone is like properly representative rather than people being biased, shouldn't we at least try our best to go to that like next step? Because based on what you're telling me, I see no net benefit. I mean, no net harm.
Like, no, you can try, but it won't happen, right? Because they'll still have the power that I talk about.
I mean, they will still have the power, but aren't we breaking out one of the avenues? That's what I'm saying. We're breaking one of the avenues for that, right?
Because it doesn't be
Senators. Senator Mo.
Thank you. So I think we both, Senator, agree upon the point that corporations are not people, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so why should corporations be entitled to the First Amendment in that case?
I'm not saying they should, but they will regardless of what you do.
Can you elaborate on that argument?
I'm saying big oil companies are still going to have influence in Congress. The only thing this bill does is get rid of the good political groups.
All right, thank you.
Chair absorbs. Is there anyone else interested in taking that last 31 seconds? Senator Lee.
Which political party or which representatives of each political party gains the most from getting donations from super PACs?
Like what party?
Yeah.
Typically Republicans.
Yeah, so do you think those things that you mentioned are going to be passed if these super PACs by a party that isn't like super progressive with the things
politicians like money, right? Like the main reason politicians vote certain ways is because the financial incentive to do so. Like even if it's like a woman's right.
Thank you, senators. Time has elapsed. All speakers on the affirmation, please raise your placards. Any and all speakers on the affirmation. All right. The chair highly frowns upon a one-sided debate. Any negation speakers, please raise your placards.
Motion.
State that.
Call for like a 60-second in-house recess.
Seconds. All in favor? Any against? Granted.
I take it nobody has prep.
Yeah. I had prep on the other bill. That's why I wanted the docket before. But yeah.
I have prep for like one contention, but I'm trying to like finish rapidly my second contention right now.
Like I could switch, but it would like take a bit.
Okay. I know I'm not supposed to weigh in, considering I'm a director, but why don't y'all talk about what you might have for the other bill?
Okay. Other bill, I have a sponsorship down.
The other bill I have even less, so.
I have really stock points.
I have somewhat of a negation speech.
The other bill, I have a negation.
I could go after the other bill, but that means that I wouldn't be able to speak on this bill.
Well, your recess ends in 5 seconds, so y'all need to figure something out.
Okay, hold up. We can make this base one, right?
Motion.
State that.
This is going to take a while, so call for an indefinite in-house recess.
Sure. Seconds. All in favor? Any against? Go for it.
Okay, wait, I have a question. Wait, so technically, if we make a gentleman's agreement at base one, would that work?
I mean,
one? Okay. what you end up doing as a collective group of competitors is up to you. But I don't think the judges, nor the directors, nor myself, the PO, would like to see in a final round, right? At least in an out round, that people just give one speech and then end with it. That also makes things very hard for the judges to decide. So I would highly suggest against that. But if that is the only way you can make the round proceed, that's up to you.
It's also worth noting all of our judges have their cameras on. They're paying attention right now, and they are all competitors. So if you step up and give a speech, they're really going to like that.
Does anybody else have prep for this bill?
I have some, but it won't go over 2 minutes. I mean, if I have like maybe 10 minutes, I could finish.
Maybe if we had like a recess that lasted for a few minutes, maybe I could, string together one, but it would take more than a minute.
I mean, if you have a contention, you could try making a half rev.
Yeah.
I can give the next neg.
Yeah, I have a neg too. I don't have an F.
Okay, I say we call for a recess that's like a minute or two, and then me and like someone else could just do two.
We're in an indefinite recess. So I mean, we don't have
y'all are in indefinite recess right now.
Oh yeah, great. So we'll just come back when we're done.
I can try to finish this next speech like really quickly, and then I can give it if no one else has a next speech.
Yeah, and then I'll go after you.
But wait, it's Af's turn. Does anyone have an Af? Okay, I
We'll
guess.
make the negation do one, and then while we're doing one, we'll just.
Okay.
Okay, wait, hold up. Is anyone planning on going abs?
For this bill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have an app, but I'm on the same road as many others. I need some time.
Yeah. Okay, at least we have.
Okay, we can't actually make this an indefinite recess, so I'm going to need a time frame from someone.
If you give me maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes, I'll have a speech for you.
Okay, let's get things sped up. Let's have Anish give second neg in a row. Anish, you said it's ready, right?
Give me 2 minutes and I'll be
Okay, and then Senator Delgado, you can write it during Anish's speech. So plus questioning, that'll give you 5 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
But Delgado, you said you're going on neg as well, right?
Yes, I'm neg.
We need someone to get their AF speech ready. Having 3 negs in a row right off the bat does not make for a good debate.
Yeah, I'll do an affirmation speech after the second neg.
Okay, all right. That's a plan. The chair would entertain a motion to end this indefinite recess.
Motion.
Hiram, state that.
And the indefinite recess.
Seconds. All in favor? Any against? All right. With that, we just ended with no negation speech either. So once again, I'm going to call for affirmative speakers, any and all. Seeing none, again, the chair highly frowned upon a one-sided debate, and so do your judges. All negation speakers. Senator Biram.
Howdy, everyone. That's Senator Biram, spelled just like it is on the Zoom screen, B-E-E-R-A-M. I know this is the second negation speech in a row, but I promise to bring you guys something new. Just any indication if you're ready. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Judge Chen, are you ready? Awesome, thank you. It's a sad time in America when the red, white, and blue is hijacked by red versus blue. Too often, it seems like our policies make it easier for wealthy Americans to steamroll the American political system. But I am failing this legislation because I don't want to leave millions of people behind. This legislation is a false promise and a broken dream. Fail this legislation. So far, this debate has boiled down to one critical question. What impact do super PACs have on elections? I'm going to spend my next 3 minutes answering this question and this question alone. Now, Senator Long on the affirmation tells you that you weaken super PACs, and she gives you 2 reasons why this is true. First, because you cut off super PACs from their financial capital. Second, because you weaken their political influence. Even if we buy you at your highest ground, every one of those reasons pales in comparison to the one I am about to give you, because super PACs serve a critical purpose everyone in this round has ignored. They educate voters. The Chicago Tribune, in an editorial, found that super PACs serve to spread information and arguments that voters may find useful in casting their votes. It furthers that for 36% of American voters, their primary election information comes solely from the advertisements that super PACs run. Senator Leong tells you about how wealthy Americans are predominantly influencing these elections through negative advertisements and such. But I'd argue that negative advertisements are not a reason why super PACs are uniquely bad. If both parties have super PACs, the negative ads work both ways. That means Americans will see the negative aspects of both Republican and Democratic politicians. Let's compare the biggest impacts that each side has told you. Senator Liang, she claims that we lead to more secure elections. But a lack of voter education fundamentally outweighs. Why? Because you decrease Americans' likelihood to vote at all. If you decrease ads in general by decreasing the number of super PACs, Senator Liang, how are we going to educate voters? The answer is we aren't. The Brennan Center for Justice found on April 6th of last year that without super PACs, millions of Americans in rural America would not have the information on candidates outside of their political party affiliation, ensuring they don't vote because they have no incentive to take time off work for someone they don't care about. That decreased voter turnout flips all of the advocacy given to you by Senator Liang and the rest of the affirmation. Having voters actually turn out is a necessary prerequisite for any impact that the affirmation gives you. This is why you prefer my impacts in this round. Pair this impact on voter turnout with Senator Wilkes's on good PACs, and your ballot is clear. At the end of the day, Senator Liang, we should not stand for re-election. We should get re-elected to take a stand. Do that. Fail this legislation.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 2 minutes and 56 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. Any and all. All right, we'll start with Senator Liang.
I thank the chair. Senator, are super PACs the only organizations that provide education to voters?
No, but as I told you, they educate 34% of voters.
But if we get rid of super PACs, can the presidential campaigners themselves not take over that?
I mean, they can, but the problem is they won't. Like, that's why 36% of Americans in rural areas get it specifically from super PACs.
Why? Why won't
Because
they?
politicians generally don't look at like rural areas. They focus more on like metropolitan and urban areas. Like, that's not going to change.
Okay. Yield the rest of my time.
Chair absorbs. Senator Bodapalli.
Thank you. So you say that presidential elections won't look towards rural communities. Doesn't this legislation passing force them to look to rural communities?
No, because if super PACs weaken and the good PACs weaken, like Senator Wilkes told you, that decreases the negative advertisements, even if they're negative, and as a result, information decreases.
Right, but that's 36% of voters. Like your evidence told you,
Sure.
Why would they neglect 36% of voters?
I mean, 36% is still not the majority. Like, the reason that their only education is super PACs is because they're already getting neglected right now.
Right, but they want to maximize voter turnout, so there is a higher chance of them winning.
No.
Why would they not?
If that were true, they would have already been like educating voters in rural
They
areas.
all already through super PAC donations. So
No,
when you
they're
end
not.
it, aren't
That's
you
like
forcing?
private super PACs, not the campaigns themselves.
Right, so once you force campaigns to do that when
No,
there's no
you
longer
don't.
super PACs.
No,
Why
if they're
not?
not doing it right now, they're not going to do it if we take away super PACs.
Well, that's because they're not doing it because super PACs are
First
doing it
off,
for
they have
them. So
less
when you
funding
get
to
rid
do
of that,
no, like if they have less funding because of super PACs, because super PACs aren't giving them as much funding, why would they then increase their expansion? Like, that doesn't
right.
make
So what I'm
sense.
asking you is when they get rid of super PACs, don't they have the incentive to do so
No,
for those
they don't
36%
have the
voters?
financial means to do
Has
that.
lapsed.
It's funded by
Thank
super PACs.
Thank you. Speakers on the affirmation, please raise your placards. Any and all speakers on the affirmation. Thank you, Senator. Well, that will go to Senator Mo.
I thank the chair for recognizing me. Hi, this is Representative Mo speaking on the affirmation side for the first time on this legislation. First time on this chamber. If all the judges can give me any form of indication that they're ready, then that'll be great. Cool. When debating the impacts of Citizens United, we tend to focus on how we can use the First Amendment to uplift our democracy rather than how it can be used to undermine it. Citizens United has not created unification, rather division, which undermines the rights and drowns out the voices of Americans. We have a responsibility to correct that. Building off of Senator Land's argument regarding super PACs, overturned Citizens United to prevent super PACs from bypassing campaign finance regulations. According to the Center for Responsive Politics, during the 2019 to 2020 election, super PACs have raised nearly $200 million and spent just more than $20 million. In fact, the Senate Majority PAC has been the leading fundraiser of all liberal PACs, totaling up to $230 million. Let me clarify the logic. The current law permits independent spending by allowing super PACs to spend unlimited money on campaigns, as long as the contributions do not go directly to the candidates' pockets. However, here's the thing, even if candidates are not directly funded, outsiders are still able to campaign in the interest of those candidates. Independent spending simply does not exist. The status quo only creates two distinct campaign teams, but one of them is unsupervised. Affirming this legislation will close that loophole that's been flying under the radar for almost a decade. Next, overturn Citizens United because the First Amendment does not apply to corporations who are abusing that privilege. According to the Los Angeles Times, ExxonMobil is one of the many corporations who used free speech claims to cover up potential health impacts that may stem from their product. The First Amendment applies to the people who work for the corporations, but not actually the corporations themselves. So even if a certain corporation representative uses the First Amendment to justify themselves, that should not infringe upon other people's First Amendment. So while corporation executives engorge themselves in free speech profits, it is our American consumers whose interests are compromised. Our democracy is under attack. If we truly want to unite our citizens, then we need to overturn Citizens United in favor of a more inclusive policy. Let us view the situation from a clear political frame, one that allows us to represent all of our constituents. Affirm this legislation to represent the people, not corporations, not wealthy donors.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. All right, that will go first to Senator Wilkes.
What stops big oil companies from keeping influence in governments after you pass?
Sorry, can you elaborate on the argument, please?
Like I said in my speech, why the things like the revolving door and like things like stocks, why won't big oil companies still have influence in Congress after you pass?
Okay, so the problem with this bill is, the thing about this bill is that it actually overturns Citizens United. It makes us pay attention more to those corporations. I'm saying the First Amendment does not apply to those corporations.
Citizens United doesn't prohibit or doesn't stop. Like they can still do things like it doesn't solve for the same issue, right? It's still going to exist, right? Like how does like any impact happen?
What can still exist?
Like corporations' ability to have influence in the government. Like why doesn't that still exist?
If we overturn this Citizens United, we're, taking away the First Amendment for corporations because they're not the same as people.
What about all the other ways they have influence?
Thank you, Senator Biram.
Hey, Senator, so if we take you higher than your highest ground and all political capital just vanishes, how does voter turnout not still outweigh that?
What do you mean?
Like if the number of voters turning out to the polls decreases because they're not educated in the first place, then why is political capital of lobbying campaigns more important?
I'm not advocating for lobbying campaigns. I'm advocating for overturning the Citizens United to.
Yeah. So if lobbying decreases and political influence decreases, how is that more important?
Because we're giving the voices to all the other Americans, not representing only one specific group of.
So, having wealthy Americans not have as much power is more important than having rural Americans go out and vote.
I'm not saying wealthy donors don't have power. They have too much.
But that's the comparative. They're mutually exclusive.
Yes, but we're actually empowering all of our constituents, not just one specific group.
If you decrease the education given by super PACs, then why would people continue to go out and vote? What incentive analysis do they have?
Thank you. Speakers on the negation, please raise your placards. Senator Delgado.
I thank the chair. Hello, everyone. My name is Senator Emma Delgado, and I will be speaking for the first time today on the negation side of this legislation about Citizens United. I will be timing myself on my iPad on airplane mode. If you guys could just give me any indication of when you are ready, that would be great. Perfect. Many of us couldn't imagine a life without Wi-Fi. Connectivity is what connects us Americans around the world, and it's how we stay informed. However, only 90 miles from our shorelines, Cubans are being silenced for speaking out about their harsh conditions. As a Floridian and Cuban American myself, I have always been well informed about this topic, but it's come to my attention that some of my out-of-state friends have no idea how oppressed Cubans really are. The communist regime of Cuba slowly but surely took all of the natives' rights away, starting with the most important, freedoms of the press and of the speech and of the internet. By overturning the Supreme Court's ruling, it may seem like one tiny step to silencing America. But due to the precedent of this overturning it will have catastrophic consequences. Negate this bill to keep our right to speech. Firstly, us Americans cannot let our First Amendment rights be silenced. The First Amendment specifically states that Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or press. By overturning this ruling, Congress has violated the First Amendment entirely. The majority opinion of the Supreme Court in this case wrote that if the First Amendment had any force, it prohibits Congress from fining or jailing citizens or associations of citizens for simply engaging in political speech. The First Amendment does not distinguish between media and other corporations, so the law in question's restrictions improperly allowed Congress to suppress political speech in newspapers, books, televisions, and blogs. The First Amendment purposely keeps the government from interfering with the marketplace of idea and rationing speech, and it is not up to our legislators or for our courts to create a sense of fairness by restricting speech. Congress is supposed to be acting in the name of fairness and following the Constitution, but by banning corporations with the right of freedom of speech is definitely unconstitutional. The First Amendment never stated that corporations can be denied the right to speak their mind, even though if they are not people, as Senator Lee established earlier. There is a difference between judicial restraint and failure to fulfill a responsibility. By Congress ignoring the wishes of our founding fathers, they are disowning the Constitution and the law of the United States. Moreover, by overturning this case ruling, this sets precedents for future cases. Congress will get the mentality that they could overturn every Supreme Court case that they come across with a supermajority, stripping power from the Supreme Court. With the supermajority, Congress could twist the Constitution in the way they want to. Overturning laws deemed unconstitutional with rational reasoning creates a new loophole in politics and makes it even more of a monopoly than it was before. By taking away the rights of the First Amendment is the first steps to taking away the rights of a citizen and corporations. A free democracy, a free market could all take a sudden turn when the free speech is seized by the government. There is no such thing as too much speech, a wise Supreme Court justice once said. The First Amendment has protected the people of the United States for over 2 centuries. Don't let the overturning of this ruling seize one of our most important and patriotic rights of the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. That goes first to Senator Edevalapati.
Thank you. Senator, do you think it's right if we try to fix something that the Supreme Court made a mistake on?
No, I certainly do not. There have been some overturnings that I completely agree with.
Okay. So then why shouldn't we change this with the fear that it might cause an overturning with the Supreme Court if our job is to keep everything in check?
Well, also I believe that it's violating one of our most important rights as a United States American.
But aren't we still making sure that the people who are voting have the ability to put their contributions in? Because we're not stopping average natural citizens from putting their money in, right?
But even by stopping corporations by silencing their voices, it's still a violation of the First Amendment.
But aren't
differentiated between
but who's voting?
corporations and people?
Sorry. Who's voting for these elections?
The people.
Exactly. So shouldn't the people have the ability to put the campaign money where they would like it, rather than corporations just doing whatever they want?
But still, corporations should have the right that they can express where they want to go.
Hi, Representative, great speech. So are corporations people?
No, but they still have rights to, like, they should have the right to determine who they want to endorse.
Okay, but what is more important? People having the right to support their candidate, to support campaigns, or corporations?
Well, people, of course, but if the right is taken away from corporations, it might slowly trickle down to people, like it did in Cuba, as I used in my introduction.
But isn't it more important to preserve the people's voices?
Of course, it's important to preserve people's voices.
All right, then why not affirm?
Because we're not protecting the corporation's voices as well. We want to protect everyone's voices, and this legislation is obviously not doing that.
All right, I yield the right of my time.
Chair absorbs. All right, we're now in line for speech and affirmation. Speakers, please raise your placards. All right, Senator Fan.
I'm a Senator Fan speaking for the first time this legislative session. If I could get any indication when everyone is. Democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I'm sure that most of us have heard this phrase before, but in the status quo, we appear to have forgotten that core value. To return power back to the American people, affirm. Firstly, Citizens United allows for corporations to impede on much needed and wanted reform. For example, climate change used to be a bipartisan issue, but that ended with Citizens United, even as global temperatures continue to rise. In 2010, senators who once supported green reforms refused to even discuss climate change on the floor of the Senate, and some began denying its existence altogether. The Citizens United ruling opened the floodgate for special interests and lobbyists looking to dominate American politics. And thus, the colossal financial influence of the super wealthy has given groups like fossil fuel companies the ability to indicate to some congressmen what legislation they should and should not support. And the leverage of the oil industry is inescapable. In 2011 to 2012 alone, the fossil fuel companies gave more than $300 million in campaign finance contribution and lobbying efforts. And their expenditures proved successful, with fossil fuel industries receiving $33 billion in federal subsidies in those same 2 years, exacerbating global warming. In a similar way, the Koch brothers have been key players in this campaign against climate change. Since 1997, they've spent $61.3 million to support organizations that oppose climate science and environmental legislation. The strategies are highly effective, riddling public discourse on the subject with misinformation and skewed data. When our corporations start to buy our future, this is where I draw the line. Whereas there was a steady heartbeat of Republican action on climate change before Citizens United, their activity has virtually flatlined. Representative Wiltz, you largely diminish the power of corporations and PACs when you affirm. Even if industries still have some power, this legislation is still a net gain because you cut off one of the largest ways they contribute to the influence of reform. No matter what, we work towards democracy. Secondly, Senator Biram tells you about how citizens are educated by advertisements run by super PACs. But understand that that barely matters in the status quo because super PACs themselves are pushing out the majority of voters, leaving wealthy corporations and individuals. Building off of Representative Mo and Liang, there are ways to get information to constituents. There are no other ways to give them more power than the wealthy without stopping super PACs. Perhaps the most troubling result of Citizens United is the decision that helps reinforce the growing sense that our democracy primarily serves the interest of the wealthy few. With 25% of all super PAC money coming from just 5 rich donors, it becomes only a select few that have an enormous impact on results. Representative Delgado, people don't have voices when money speaks. To preserve freedom of speech, you affirm. Make sure democracy of the government of the people, not the government of money. Affirm.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 3 minutes and 1 second. Questioners, please raise your placards. Senator Biram.
Hi, Senator. I'm a little confused. Like, what's the incentive analysis behind why super PACs inherently reform?
Sorry.
What's the incentive analysis behind your point?
Okay, so let's say you have a fossil fuel company, right? They clearly don't want climate action bills because
Sure.
that would impede on their industry. So then they would lobby the Congress people and they would donate to the Congress people to ensure that those
Well,
legislations
if Senator
get
Wilkes
passed.
told you that because of the revolving door that doesn't change, how is your impact unique?
Okay, the issue is that it does change. Senator Wilkes only tells you that majority of that some part of it doesn't change.
I'm a
But
little
whatever, they're
confused.
still in that game.
If the bad packs stay because of the revolving door and we get rid of the good packs, how is that like beneficial?
You are getting rid of bad packs because currently super PACs are donating money to campaigns. If you stop them from the ability to donate, you cut off
So
one of the
I'm like
main ways they
confused on that
support.
point. Why would we get rid of bad packs in that case?
Thank you, Senator Bodapalli.
Thank you. So going off the previous line of questioning, I want to address another loophole. So under Citizens United, corporations can only lobby through campaign funding. So under this legislation, if we pass, what stops these corporations from privately advertising and making deals with these candidates behind closed doors?
Sorry, pardon?
So if these corporations do private advertising and then do deals with these candidates behind closed doors, what does this legislation do to stop that?
Well, in the status quo, there is a good portion of funds that those super PACs are currently donating.
Yeah, they're donating a lot of funds. So if they can still privately advertise and do deals behind closed doors, how does legislation solve that problem?
There are other ways to ensure campaign finance transparency. But currently we will be solving the issue of super PACs donating to campaigns.
Right, but that's campaign finance transparency. If they're doing it privately, how does that have anything to do with campaign financing?
Thank you, senators. Time has elapsed. All negation speakers, please raise your placards. Any and all negation speakers? Right, the chair highly frowns upon a one-sided
motion.
State that.
Motion for a 1-minute recess.
Seconds. All in favor? Any against? All right. Go ahead.
Just give me 1 minute. I'll get this speech done and I'll give this negation speech.
All right. And obviously we want to have another neg after, if possible.
I can do a negation speech.
Are you ready now?
Like not writing out, like I already finished one. Like I was working on an affirmation speech, but unless there's no more affirmation speeches, then
Okay. Here's the thing. If someone gives a 5-minute speech for the chamber, I can like create an affirmation speech.
Yeah, so Bodapalli should be done by the end of this recess. He'll give his speech. You can go aff. Then Malala, you said you can go neg. We have one other speaker. Assembly.
Yeah, I'm writing a speech for the AF right now.
Okay, that'll work.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait, Senator Lee, I have a quick question. Are you done with your ass speech?
Done. It's like loosely finished, but I'm not like done with like.
Yeah, do you think 5 minutes like that we would get with Senator Bodapalli's speech would give you enough time to present?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
right,
so then can we do Senator Lee and then Senator Malala and then me?
Your recess is up, so I'm going to call for a speech on negation. Speakers, please raise your placards. Senator Bodapalli. Or
I think
Senator Malala, was that a speech for the negation?
yeah.
Okay, then you have. Oh, sorry, no, it goes to Bodapalli. Yes.
Thank you. This is Senator Bodapalli speaking for the first time this legislative session. As always, I'm at the leisure of those above me. Any indication you all are ready, and I'll be more than happy to begin. Awesome. Get started. The phrase our corporation's people has been used so often by the affirmation that at this point I've come to think that that is their main advocacy. But this Congress has failed to realize that corporations aren't people. But in our status quo, corporations represent our people. This debate has crystallized into one key question. Does today's legislation stop corporate lobbying? I want to spend the next 3 minutes of my speech proving to you why the answer to this question is strictly no. Principally, you negate to prevent any loopholes that you see when you repeal Citizens United, and how by affirming, you hurt small businesses' voice. In the first negation speech of today's round, Senator Wilkes addressed 2 loopholes in today's legislation. Allow me to pick up where he dropped the ball. The affirmation so far has misconceptualized what actually happens under Citizens United. When you get rid of Citizens United, you allow for companies to still lobby. Allow me to explain to you why. In Cross X to Senator Young, Representative Biram asked what super PACs actually do in our status quo. Allow me to answer this question. Media Radar explains this as of March 20. 2020. Media Radar research found that PACs alone spent over $25 million on ad during the 2016 election cycle. Earlier this year, we looked at how ads represent a majority of that spending. Senator Buram already proved to you how passing today stops advertising and decreases voter turnout. But I want to focus on how this legislation has a massive loophole. Senator Mu has forgotten the fact that by passing, you only limit the amount that campaigns raise through campaign funding. When you pass today, what you see is these super PACs doing private advertising while doing private deals with the candidates themselves. So what this essentially means is that these private corporations will be making billboards and other forms of advertisement behind closed doors with candidates. So you still see corporate lobbying continuing. When super PACs have the ability to privately advertise for campaigns and get the benefits when the candidate is in power, we see no change whatsoever under the status quo. This flips every argument on the affirmation because we can't access any of their impacts about people over corporations. But second, let's take a second to understand the inherent harm of passing today and how that directly affects our constituents. Today's debate has been centered on PACs and larger corporations, but I want to change the focus onto smaller businesses and how this affects them. I want this Congress to understand that elections are the only way for small businesses to have their voice heard. Let's understand one thing. Small businesses in particular have the trust of our constituents. The Better Business Bureau conducted a survey in 2018 where they found that almost 90% of Americans trusted small businesses. Why does that matter? In comparison, people trusted the media, big corporations, and federal and state governments up to 50% less. People have more faith in a small business just a few blocks away than they do in any one of us. How did this change an election? Small businesses are able to successfully endorse candidates who represent their morals, our people's morals. Representative Jiang tells you that it's not a free election to the people. Allow me to prove to you why. Our people's vote. But I just spent 3 minutes proving to you why that is inherently false. Don't fall for the affirmation's false advocacy. Understand this legislation does absolutely nothing and negate. In the end, I asked this Congress to look back and what happened. When we look down a few years from the line, we realized nothing happened.
Senator. Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 3 minutes and 18 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. First, Senator Wilkes.
Okay, so Section 1 of this bill says the ability to make contribution and expenditures to influence the outcome of public elections being only to natural persons. This bill bans expenditures. How can they, like...
Right, so you can't necessarily ban expenditures all the way. Like in your neighborhood, you will see like a Trump sign or like a Biden sign outside. You can't ban that necessarily. When corporations do something like that, they make billboards and stuff, you can't necessarily stop that under this legislation.
Like they can't sell the Trump signs because it's expenditures and it's illegal.
Right, but you can't necessarily stop that. It's not like you have jurisdiction over everything.
Why not? We're Congress. Like, it's
right, but I don't understand how you expect to look over every single thing and make sure that no corporation is lobbying in any way.
How do we enforce copyright laws, right? When people are like copywriting, we get them like in trouble with.
Exactly. That's why our copyright laws are so bad. That's why we are so behind in them. You really can't enforce something like this.
Better than the status quo, though. Like,
no, I just proved to you why you get rid of small business voice.
Thank you. Any other questioners? Senator Wilkes, would you like another block?
Yeah, sure. All so, right. How does this get rid of small businesses vote? I thought you said they can keep donating.
Not vote, it's voice. But what I proved to you in my speech is they trust small businesses, and when small businesses lobby in elections, you're basically representing the people.
Wait, what small businesses are lobbying?
Well, it's not lobbying. They're more making campaign contributions and like saying who they want people to vote for because they have the people's morals and ideas in mind.
You said that it's independent, like they can advertise independently. Like, which one is it?
Right. So what I'm saying is small businesses don't have the infrastructure or like the money to campaign independently.
Wait, why? Like it's
because they can't afford like big billboards and stuff like big businesses can.
Like it's the same. They lobby either way, right? Like.
Well, it's more or less of telling their community who to vote for because they have the community's morals in mind.
But like the building the billboard's illegal because expenditures are not allowed.
Right,
like,
but it's so hard to track that.
So we should just like do nothing? Like,
well, exactly. You can't do anything. That's my entire point.
See a billboard, we get mad at the people who built the billboard because it's illegal.
Right, that's limiting freedom of speech.
Time has elapsed. All right, thank you. Speakers on the affirmation, please raise your placards. All right, Senator Lee.
All right, I thank the chair. Seeing as I am at the leisure of those above me, please give me any indication when you are ready. Sorry. All right, great. The American people are not dogs. Corporations do not need to translate our wants to represent the American people. Affirming this bill will prevent the jeopardization of our democracy. First, super PACs allow a single party to have more power over the presidential election and other elections. As Senator Wilkes stated himself, most super PACs are in favor of the Republican Party, backed up by the Center for Responsive Politics. Republican super PACs, such as Bush's Right to Rise and Romney's Restore Our Future initiatives, have been some of the most highly donated super PACs in these presidents' campaigns. In addition, our bipartisan democracy is downgraded into a unilateral corporate-ran presidency where the people who run are the people who have the most money. Corporations contain the most influence rather than the American people themselves. This is not our America. We are being muzzled by corporations and being held on leashes just so corporations can gain money, gain economic and political influence. Second, Super PAC, Senator Delgado, super PACs do not represent a diverse demographic of the American people. Super PACs are disproportionately represented by disproportionately represented, sorry. It is fact that the super PAC donations are dominated by men, specifically white men, who benefit from generational wealth. According to the Center for Responsive Politics, racial, gendered, and economic disparities cause white men to donate 80% of super PAC donations to campaigns. This is roughly like no diverse groups are donating to super PACs in general. This does not represent the voice of the American people, but rather just white men in America. In conclusion, corporations keep America on a leash. They silence our people, our opinions, and promote their own endeavors disproportionately. Affirm to restore the humanity that our electoral process promises.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. Any and all questioners. The chair encourages full participation. Right, seeing no interest, the chair will absorb both of those blocks. With that, all speakers on the negation, please raise your placards. Any and all negation speakers? All right, Senator Malala.
Thank the chair. This is Rudy Malala speaking for the first time in this legislation. At the leisure of all those above me, just give me a sign or indication that you're ready. Okay. Justice and equality. It's usually symbolized as a scale, where both sides are the same weight. This bill is doing what exactly would be taking all the weight off of one side, completely flipping the scale over. Senators, believe me when I say that it is in your best interest to negate this bill. First of all, this bill will lead to a bias in the system and a certain perspective that goes against what America stands for. By voting, according to the Department of Justice, by voting, citizens are participating in the democratic process. Citizens vote for leaders to represent them and their ideas, and the leaders support the citizens' interest. If we pass this bill, our leaders will only represent the opinions and the needs of people born only in the US. America is supposed to be a country full of mixed opinions, experiences, and perspectives. And by affirming this bill, you're not only throwing those away, but we're completely disregarding the millions of immigrants who live in this country and who weren't born in here. Senator Lee stated that this bill would jeopardize, or this bill would prevent the jeopardization of democracy in this country. But it's clear to see that by disregarding all of these different people in America, we are doing the exact opposite. In addition, this bill will decrease informed voters. Decreasing campaign spending will decrease the number of resources for parties to encourage voters. According to the Cato Policy Analysis in February 2016, increased campaign spending does translate into a better informed electorate. Voter understanding of issues clearly increases with the quantity of campaign information received. In short, spending less on campaigns will not elevate the level of debate, but will result in less public awareness and understanding of issues. Campaign spending is necessary for voters to learn about the viewpoints of different candidates. According to Time in January 2016, higher spending in politics helps voters identify candidates and place them on an ideological scale and connect them on stances or issues. Money is also used to fund voter registration and get out of the vote efforts. This bill means preventing parties from generating the funds they can use in the status quo, and ultimately parties will have fewer tools to spread their message. If voters are uninformed, they become less aware of current issues and will vote for candidates who do not adequately represent them. Therefore, senators, I believe it's in all of your best interests to vote for negation on this bill, for yourselves and for the people of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. All right, Senator Fahn.
Representative, great speech. So who has more power, wealthy corporations and individuals or your average voter?
Well, when you phrase it that way, it feels like corporations do, but average voters all put together generally have more power over corporations.
In the concept of like donations, right?
Sure.
All right, so is it better to guarantee that our voters have their voices heard, or is it better to ensure that they're educated? Like, shouldn't having their voices heard be a priority?
Well, they are having their voices heard, but at the same time, it doesn't matter if the voices aren't heard if they're not educated or if it's not what they really feel on the topic.
But if they're not educated, but if they are educated, but they can't speak out, and doesn't that also negate?
Thank you. Any other questioners? Senator Moe.
Thank you. So I believe you said that higher spending needs to be encouraged to represent the voices, but isn't that exactly the problem? Only the donors with the deepest pockets have a bigger voice?
I guess, yeah, but also if corporations use that money to spread the messages, donors put that money into educating them.
Yes, but when you say corporations, who are you referring to? Are you referring to a specific spokesperson, CEO, president of a corporation to represent all of the constituents, or are you actually referring to all the voices inside the corporation?
Probably one person, CEO. Or
yes, so if you're referring to only one person, how is that representing all the other people in the corporations?
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean one CEO. I meant different people giving donations to, different companies that can spread their message.
But they're not representing all the voices, though.
Thank you. All affirmation speakers, please raise your placards. All right, Senator Edevalapati, unopposed.
Attending the chair, that's Senator Edevalapati speaking. I know it's a very long last name, and bear with me, judges. Edevalapati. Judges and the PO, you can find my name right there for the Zoom name. And for the PO's discretion, I will be timing myself on airplane mode. So just give me 1 second. Okay, and yeah, I'd just really appreciate it if I could get a signal when I'm ready, and from all the judges as well. Okay, I got the PO. Judge Gutierrez, Parley Chen, Judge Duntula, are you good? Okay, perfect. The first super PAC, Colbert's Super PAC, was created on September 9th, 2011, and it was created on the morals with the motto, make it better tomorrow, tomorrow. It's because I want to make it better tomorrow, today. Make sure that your vote is based on the same premise. As the last speaker of today's debate, allow me to separate the speech into 2 parts. First, arguments on educating voter turnouts without super PACs, and 2, the argument of loopholes. I'm going to spend all 3 minutes of my speech simply proving these arguments wrong to make sure that you vote in the affirmation. Principally, allow me to break the contention that Senator Burham spent his entire speech covering. Super PACs educate our constituents. But I argue the exact opposite. Super PACs do not educate our constituents. It's not education. It's lies and angers that are spread on the opposite party. Senator Biram and Malala, you fail to understand that the majority of our constituents who already vote in the past election already know who they're voting for before they even go to these centers. As The Economist shows on March 17th, 2018, in the past elections, individuals without a degree solely just backed up the Republican Party by a 7-point margin. Among whites, the difference is greater. Those without a college degree backed Mr. Trump over Mrs. Clinton by a margin of more than 2-1. And that was even before the super PACs were even starting on their main campaigning. Often, their vote was simply based on the people around them or an instilled mindset that already happens. Education only increases the anger and resentment that they have to the other party. In fact, the Pew Research Center shows that the anger between both of these groups has only been increasing. And there's only one reason behind that: the lies behind the super PACs. The Pew Research Center found on October 18th, 2019, that partisanship was increasing by 2/3 due to campaign messages that blinded the eyes or the values of the people. This argument effectively breaks the only solvent argument given by the negation championed by Senator Biram. It's simply not true. Let's make sure honesty is the best policy. Senator Boldenpally, you tell us that there are massive loopholes, but what I'm saying is at the end of the day, these advertisements don't even matter. Let's take the second half of what the negation has been trying to push, which is that there are other alternatives championed by Senator Wilkes. As Senator Fan touched upon, but I will build off, I argue that this will happen in the status quo no matter what, because it's occurring, as the sponsor has shown, also with oil industries that I brought up in cross-examination against Senator Wilkes. Let's weigh that. As The Economist has shown on March 15th, 2017, the oil industry has given trillions of dollars in super PAC funding to the Republican Party. Senator Wilkes and Boldenpally understand that this can be a process of change that ensures the green in a campaign is less than the green in our country. What this proves is that the affirmation wins the loopholes and super PAC education argument because they're simply non-unique and will happen no matter what. But at the end of the day, we're at least helping the situation by making sure that one of the avenues is gone. As the last speaker of today's legislation, remember that your vote matters. The vote of the people for our country matters. Stand up and let's build it to better tomorrow, today, and finally affirm.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 3 minutes and 7 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. First to Senator Boldenpally.
Why do advertisements not matter?
I'm saying that what I argue what's happening right now in the status quo is that most people with who need this education already know who they're going to vote for. So what all these campaigns, all they just do is they just increase resentment to the other party.
Right, but don't they need more education for new candidates coming in? If they
okay, but what I'm saying is they don't even listen to the education, considering that they already know who they're voting for.
Right, so if they don't listen to the education, isn't it a good thing to get them educated to increase voter turnout?
But if I'm saying they're not going to listen to the education, why would we why even try?
Right. Why would they not listen to the education? And didn't you just say that their vote matters?
Senator, what I'm proving to you is that they already know who their vote is. And no education, nothing else is going to change that.
Right. So if there's new candidates coming in, they have to get educated to learn about the new candidates, learn about their new policies.
What I'm saying is that they already know which party that they're voting for. So no matter who the
candidate
so
if they're voting along party lines, then how does their vote matter?
Senator, so basically what I'm saying is that I argue that no matter the candidate, they already know which party they're voting for. So education is just a waste of money at this point. And based on what
I think the chair. So if there are people who don't know about the presidential election at all and they're exposed to, say, super PAC advertising, isn't it better to get them to know about the election so we can have more voter turnout overall?
Okay, first of all, to make sure that there is kind of like a nuance based on what my previous questioning is, I'm also arguing that what's happening right now is that first, they already know who they're voting for. So what the lies that the super PACs provide, and even Senator Biram accepted this when he was in his speech, that they send big claims, that only thing that it's doing is just increasing the resentment, and it's kind of making sure that there's anti-partisanship.
So if we don't have these lies, won't there still be anti-partisanship? So isn't it better to give people more exposure even though it's not?
Okay, Senator, let's take you on your highest ground. First of all, what I would say is let's even weigh that. We have the affirmation has consistently proved to you that there have been times where an industry's money that they've given to a presidential candidate has changed their views. So even if the weighing,
thank you, Senator. Time is elapsed.
Thank you.
Seeing as everyone has spoken, the chair would entertain a motion to previous question. Do we have any? Thank you, Senator Adevalapati.
A motion for previous questioning.
Seconds. All in favor? Any against? If not, we'll move to voting procedure. Everyone who wants to pass this legislation overturning Citizens United, please raise your placards and keep them up. Count Malala. Pass, right? You want this amendment to go to the states. All right. Malala, Lee, Edavalapati, Mo, Fan, Liang. Count 6. Right? And then everyone who wants to defeat today's legislation, please raise your placards. You don't want this to succeed. Senator Biram, Delgado, Wilkes, Botapalli, that's 4. Should be 0 abstentions. A vote of 6 to 4 to 0. Today's amendment does pass. So congratulations to the sponsor. All right. Seeing no questions, we'll proceed to the next legislation, which is regarding mental health training.
Motion.
Oh, state that.
I call for a 5-minute recess.
Seconds. All in favor? Any against? All right, 5 minutes starts now.
We get split real quick before everybody goes.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you haven't asked.
Okay, that's.
But my app isn't done, so I could flip to neg if needed.
Also, I'm planning on giving the sponsorship.
Who has neg? Okay, that's pretty good actually. Okay, cool. Looks like we're good.
I don't have prep. Should I go after neg? Neg, I think, right?
Probably neg.
I think we're pretty even.
live stream's running still? Oh, he might be on mute. Anyway, we'll just go ahead then. Next item. Great. Next item on the agenda is the bill regarding mental health education for parents. Are there any sponsors? Senator Edvalpati.
I thank the chair, that's Senator Edvalpati speaking for the second and final time in today's legislative session. I spoke last on the previous bill, and I'm the one with the really long last name. But with that, for the discretion of actually the chamber, you guys can call me Senator Ed. Just take out all of that. So Senator Ed. And for the PO's discretion, same as before, I'm going to be timing myself. So that's same drill. Okay. Can you just get thumbs up from everyone? Okay. We got PO Tong, Judge Gutierrez, Carly Chen, Judge Antilla. Perfect. Okay. Give me 1 second. On May 17th, 2020, 17-year-old Lindsay, or as her parents called her, Princess, avoided eating breakfast, walking outside her door to the nearby Family Dollar with her pants off. No help, and as scared as can be. Understand that Princess has autism, a serious mental illness that often doesn't receive the form of treatment as it should. We can stop the problems of millions of families avoiding costs or the increases in mental health problems with the pandemic because my bill subsidizes mental health resources for parents. It's for Princess that I pass. Mental illnesses can be referred to as disorders that are based on the DSM-5, a manual for assessment and diagnosis of mental disorders, and does not include any information or guidelines for treatment of disorder. These health resources would include, but are not limited to, educational courses that provide more background regarding types, support, and teaching mental illness to be transparent to our society. The true intent of this bill is to provide resources to legal guardians that they will be able to take care of their children and treat them with knowledge with no cross programs. In order to understand the severity of the situation, let's understand the problem in the status quo. Many mental illness cases go undiagnosed every year, whether it may be because of cost or because of a lack of awareness in the subject. In fact, the Behavioral Treatment Report on March 27, 2019 estimates that close to half of all Americans with mental illnesses are not getting treatment, further highlighting that around 11 million people suffer from a mental illness that severely interferes with major life activities. As a government, our responsibility is to support the people, making sure that they are safe and healthy. This is clearly not occurring in the status quo due to the mental illness problem. A December 2019 poll conducted by Gallup found that 25% of Americans say that they or a family member have delayed medical treatments for a serious illness due to the cost of care. Clearly, the cost is a problem that is inflicted on the average American who suffers and can't provide help to their children who they see suffering from the problems. Here's the core problem that is occurring in the status quo. According to Heads Up Australia in 2020, a 50+ minute individual session with a clinical psychologist might cost $143.70. Here's why this problem is especially important, especially during the pandemic, where the main victims of the situation were children. Without contact from their teachers and a virtual environment, according to CDC, from April to October 2020, hospitals across the US saw a 24% increase in the proportion of mental health emergency visits for children ages 5 to 11. Speech after speech, senators will attempt to bring up minimal concerns that don't have any solvency. Remember that the intent of this legislation is to help as many parents of the mental health victims as possible. From the dad who cries every night because they can't help their child, for the mom who's fearless and blaming herself for the problems that her child has, and for the sibling who tries hard to help their brother or sister. I'm not passing for some concerns. I am passing for all of the American people. Stand with me and affirm this legislation.
Thank you, Representative, for that speech of 3 minutes and 11 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. All right, that goes first to Senator Moe.
Hi, Senator Moe.
Hi. So are there any mental health programs that currently exist?
What I'm saying is that currently that many of these health programs that exist are not like government based, so they're not getting to the right people at the right time. And to be honest, based on one of the statistics I've provided, that means like 50% of people are not getting diagnosed. So I think it goes a bit farther than just like programs that are already in the status quo.
Yes,
We need to
but-
act as a government.
True, but how do you guarantee that these organizations or these programs will accept this $5 million that this legislation advocates for?
Because what at the end of the day, I believe that all of these programs are coming with the intent of helping others. And the fact that we're giving 5 million to help the specific people who need it will just like show.
Okay, cool. So I'm just like you, right? I also want to help these mental health children, but we need to propose a clear solution. How
We're giving $5 million and we're giving educational programs.
$5 million to who?
We're giving $5 million as categorical grants to educational programs.
Thank
Yes,
you,
but it's not
Senator
Educational programs.
Your main problem in the status quo is that children aren't being diagnosed, right?
First, they aren't being diagnosed, and the people that are being diagnosed, the cost. So basically, I'm trying to address both of these situations.
But don't the children literally need to be diagnosed for their parents to get the training in this bill?
Okay, but what I'm saying is that first, what this will allow us to do is it will allow us like the fact that we're even putting a bill will first like increase awareness, but the second, for the people that can't afford it, especially the low income people, it will give them a lot of help, especially because like it gives them $5 million of free education.
First, your speech was focused on diagnosis. Can we agree that this bill does not solve for diagnosis?
Okay, but what I'm saying is that no matter what we've seen in past bills, it kind of like increases awareness inside the public. So in a way,
I'm just talking about diagnosis. Can we agree this bill does not solve for diagnosis?
Okay, I'm saying that necessarily it won't solve for it, but what I'm saying is that it will increase like diagnosis.
Okay, thank you.
Chair absorbs. Negation speakers, please raise your placards. Any and all speakers on the negation? Senator Moe.
Thank you for recognizing me. Hi, this is Representative Senator Moe speaking for the second time in this chamber, first time on this legislation. All the judges can give me any form of indication that they're ready, then that would be great. Cool. Mental health needs to become a transparent priority, as Senator Ed puts it clearly. This is exactly why. If we want to help those who are in need, we must propose a crystal clear solution. But this legislation is just the opposite, negate. First, it is unnecessary to subsidize additional mental health resources when several mental health programs already exist. According to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, organizations like the National Child Traumatic Stress Network have supported the spread of mental illness information throughout communities, which resulted in the improved quality of services in schools for traumatized youth. In fact, NCTSN indicated that each quarter, about 30,000 children and adolescents directly benefited from the services throughout this network. And this is only one of the several mental health programs that I listed that all accomplish the same exact objective. Therefore, it would be unnecessary to pass this legislation when it would be more wise to take advantage of the programs that we already have. Next, this legislation does not address important factors, such as specifying the entire budget. Under Section 1, this legislation states that a $5 million will be made available in terms of competitive categorical grants. But nowhere in this legislation does it state how much money that will be overseen in total. As congressmen and congresswomen, we're not responsible for figuring out the specific details of legislation. We're only responsible for figuring out whether it is justifiable or not to pass legislation based on those details. In this case, we cannot pass a legislation that does not identify the budget. Ever since the pandemic, mental health has become a serious issue as people are becoming increasingly aware. In order to figure out how to best help our constituents, we need to view the problem from an objective point of view. Representatives, let me make it clear one last time. Support this cause, but negate this solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 2 minutes and 1 second. Questioners, please raise your placards. All right, first, Senator Adevalpati.
Thank you. Senator, doesn't the first section specifically say that first the budget is $5 million and also that we're also giving it to educational programs, which are probably already in the status quo?
Are you suggesting $5 million is enough to cover the entire country?
So are you saying that like the money is a problem? Because this could always just be a start.
Okay,
right?
First of all, you need to specify what is this $5 million for? Is it per educational program?
It says to
project,
subsidize educational programs.
Yeah, so I assume that's per project. In that case, that's way too much money.
but we're helping educational programs by giving them more funding for the research.
Okay, yes, but how many applicants do you think are going to apply for this $5 million?
The people who I brought up that can afford.
Yes, which includes schools, communities, and organizations.
Okay,
right?
wait, so Senator, what you're saying is that you would pass this bill if we just made like simple amendments and small tweaks?
Yes, but then this wouldn't be, we wouldn't
Okay,
be.
but we can still give an amendment and then you would definitely pass this legislation, right?
Yes, of course. I definitely want to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Malala.
Hi, Representative. You said in your speech that you would like focus on prioritizing on the certain programs that we have right now. One of those problems would be like overfunding to rich schools or to not funding to those that are low income. So how would you like help with that?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
So you said in your speech that you want to like work on the programs that we have as of now, right?
Yes.
So one of the problems there is like overfunding to rich schools and not, giving that much money to others. So how would you like go about solving that problem?
Okay, first of all, you need to figure out what the specific where to draw the lines, because there's like hundreds of thousands of schools, programs, community that's all going to apply for this 5 million grants. So I don't see where do you draw the line in that case.
The line is like usually the programs we have now aren't funded by the government. So wouldn't it be better to have one that
Thank you,
is?
Senators. Time has elapsed. Speakers on the affirmation, please raise your placards. All right. Based off of recency, that will go to Senator Leon.
I thank the chair. Hi, everyone. I'm Senator Leon speaking for the second and final time this session. I will be timing myself on my own device, as I stated before. As always, I'm at the leisure of all those above me. Please give me an indication whenever y'all are ready. Okay. It seems like everybody's ready. Mental illness is one of the most common diseases in the United States. Nearly 1 in 5 U.S. adults live with a mental illness, and mental illnesses include many different conditions that vary in the degree of severity, ranging from mild to moderate to severe. Now, Senator Ed told us today in his sponsorship speech that in this bill, it is important to use the money to help parents. But I am going to tell you today why this bill is important in general. First, it is important to raise awareness, as Senator Ed stated in cross-examination, because this allows the situation to be understood and concrete actions to be taken. According to the Port St. Lucie Hospital, a lot of people who have mental health symptoms don't actually realize that their struggles are a result of untreated disorders. Therefore, mental health awareness is helpful in getting you to understand your symptoms. Another significant benefit to mental health awareness is that the more people that know about the need for mental health treatment, the more mental health resources will become available. Without mental health resources, people would not be able to recover. In mental health hospitals, you will have all of the resources you need to recover from mental health conditions, heal from co-occurring disorders, and learn strategies to maintain your health after your time in treatment. Finally, mental health resources like crisis service care can keep you safe so that you have the ability to go through treatment. Mental health awareness can also break the stigma of needing mental health care. Why is this important? Because having mental health disorders does not mean that you are crazy or the other stereotypes that many people have. In actuality, mental health impacts millions of people across our country. With more awareness and the right mental health care, you will realize that you are not alone. Having mental health support gets you one step closer to mental health recovery. Senator Moe claims that we are using too much money in this bill, but I argue that isn't it important to spend money to make sure that our constituents are healthy and that our constituents are happy, because parents are a direct link to their children, and this proves this bill will help them let their children have a better life. The National Institute of Mental Health states that an estimated 49% of adolescents had any mental disorders. Of any adolescents with a mental disorder, an estimated 22% had severe impairment, which means that children all across the country are not getting the help they need because their parents are not educated enough. By passing this bill, we are providing the resources for both parents and children to live their lives to the fullest. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. Senator Moe.
Thank you. So this legislation doesn't really specify where this subsidy goes to. So we assume that whoever applies gets this $5 million each, correct?
Actually, it specifies that it will be made available annually to subsidize educational programs, which are specified again in Section 2.
Such as what, like specific names?
It says educational programs eligible for funding include, but are not limited to, courses that teach legal guardians about types of mental illnesses, courses that teach legal guardians.
How many educational programs do you think there are? How many applicants?
You tell me.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands of applicants. So are you telling me that $5 million, each of those hundreds of thousands of programs, each get $5 million each? Don't you think that's a little too much?
Well, I'm saying that we need to do what we need to do to help the children of our country. The children of our country.
So do I, but sorry, continue.
Thank you, Senator Bodapalli.
Hi, so the internet is very prominent now, right?
Yes.
Right, so you can just Google help on mental health awareness or like stuff like that, and you can get that at a click of a button, right?
Yes.
So why do you need to subsidize full government operations when you can get stuff like that online for free when it's not a problem of cost?
Well, the educational programs that the government is providing funding to are higher quality than just anything you can find for free online.
Right, so what I'm saying is if you have to subsidize it for $5 million, how do you account for almost every single mental health institution in the entire country?
Well, this educational grant is only for people who apply to them. So we would assume that only people who need money or need resources would apply for this type of grant.
So if you're advocating for higher quality, how do you achieve that with such a small amount of money?
We're still providing money to these organizations. So even if it's a small amount of money, it's better.
I'm not against the cause of it. I'm more like the implementation of it. How do you expect to get such higher quality when you're putting
Thank you, Senator. Time has elapsed. All negation speakers, please raise your placards. All right, Senator Malala.
Thank you. Excuse me. At the leisure of all those above me, just give me a sign or indication that you're ready. Okay. Childhood and growing up. Your entire course of life is just changed by your parents and shaped through their love, affection, flaws, and care. It's nice to see and to think that all parents are informed of mental health and are concerned about their children. But this chamber should be a place of reality, and this bill does not accommodate to that. First, this bill will only help the children with accepting parents to begin with. Section 2 of this bill states that mental illnesses refer to diagnosable disorders listed in the latest edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. According to the JAMA on Pediatrics, nearly 7.7 million children and teens in this country, about 1 in 7 have at least one treatable mental disorder. But half of these young people didn't receive the treatment that they need. According to Mayo Clinic, mental illness in children can be hard for parents to even identify. And as a result of that, many children who could benefit from the treatment don't get the help that they need. Millions of children in the US are suffering with a mental illness while simultaneously not receiving the treatment that they need for it. Passing this bill only takes care of the children and their parents who are even informed or know about mental illness or even know the signs. The children of these parents won't benefit from this bill because they don't think their child has a mental illness in the first place. Yes, this bill would help children who have parents who are willing to help, but it's neglecting those who aren't diagnosed or parents who aren't aware or caring of their children's mental illness. Senator Ed Velopty stated that the concerning number of children are not getting treatment, and I agree with his concern. I just feel that this bill, that's the reason this bill will only benefit those who are diagnosed, completely neglecting those who aren't. In addition, this bill will disproportionately help those who aren't people of color. There's a certain disadvantage when it comes to mental health and when it comes to the parents who are people of color, and this bill does nothing to acknowledge that. According to Dr. Hiram Mock, a psychiatric professor at the University of British Columbia, agreed with my concern. During the CBC panel in March, Mock noted that cultural values such as stoicism and the stigma around mental health prevents Asian families from talking about it. And they explained that mental health was a taboo topic in different communities in Asia. and especially for Asian Americans. Senator Liang stated that this bill would help break the stigma and spread awareness. But as I'll just explain to you, the basic programs aren't strong enough to deal with that. As seen clearly, there is a certain stigma in the Asian community, one that has been held for centuries. It puts pressure on students and children who want to please their parents. It's well known by now that if Asian American parents are given a choice to go to some program, they're probably going to decline the invitation. This bill has a certain look to it, one that seems that it could guarantee help for mental health. But just putting out education courses and programs that you can only do if you want is not going to help, because the Asian community, for South Asians and etc., needs more than that. And this bill is just blatantly ignoring the millions of Americans, children whose parents won't seek out mental health. Senators, if your concern for mental health is valid, for everyone of all races is real, then you would negate this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 3 minutes and 9 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. First, Senator Adebelapati.
Thank you. Senator, simple question. Isn't my bill better than the status quo right now?
Sure, but I just feel like it could be better.
Okay. So like, if it's better than the status quo, shouldn't we just like pass it and help those like 25% of Americans who can't pay for mental illness treatment?
You see, you could go about it that way and just be like, well, it's better than helping no one. But at the same time,
it is better than helping no one, right?
I feel like at the same time, it's better if we help more. And if we just continue.
Okay, but if we can help some, isn't that better than helping none?
If an alternative is possible, then I personally think it's better if we do that.
Okay, but Senator, can you like help me here? Like, which one's better, helping some or helping none?
Helping some, but
okay. So then, but I agree with what you're saying, right? Shouldn't we at least pass and then think about things like this in the future?
See, that's where we like get kind of confused, because like we're not going to always have chances or like bills like these.
Okay, but Senator, if we negate, do we go back to the status quo?
No, we have the opportunity for more bills.
But don't we go to the status quo tomorrow?
For a second, at least.
Hi, Representative, great speech. So bouncing off of the previous block of questioning, why can't we just pass today's legislation and then pass another legislation to satisfy whatever you want?
You could, but at the same time, we're not going to always get bills that are going to come up like this. And I feel like even though this could help a few, it's not better than helping all.
Okay, but what do we do if we negate this bill?
If we negate, we can improve on the bill. And
why can't we first pass this bill and then improve on this bill?
You could, but it would probably take a longer time.
It will also take a certain period of time to get another bill.
Yeah, I guess. But, you know, like, we're not going to always get opportunities for, like, bills like this. And if we keep
You're also
like,
not always going to get
then we're
an
not going to be able to
opportunity
get
to write a new
chance
bill. So why don't we just improve the status quo?
It's like just the same thing. Like, it's better to just do it all at once than to just.
Thank you, Senators. All speakers on the affirmation, please raise your placards. All right, that will go to Senator Wilkes.
Will, before we go on, can you give me like 30 seconds to try to fix my internet?
Okay. All right. Yeah. And then, is that a motion, Senator Adebelapati?
Yeah, should I just motion for a 30-second in-house recess, or is that fine?
Yeah. We might need a little bit of that out, but.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
We might need a little more. Do like a minute.
Okay. Motion for a 1-minute in-house recess.
I'll just skip the formalities.
Okay, perfect.
And Jimmy, does he also need to watch the last part of the last speech?
I'll rewatch it like after the round's done.
Okay, all right, great. That's the fun part about online rounds, you know.
Okay, well, oh, sorry.
Or yeah, just let us know when you have everything fixed.
Also,
yeah, it should be better.
Oh, my bad. While we're at it, do you want to like get an idea of like if we can at least get the next two speed? Like, okay, so I know Senator Wilkes, you raised your hand, and you were unopposed.
I can give the next nag.
Okay, perfect. So we got Wilkes and Bureau. Perfect.
And the recess is running out soon, but we'll just wait for him to get it all fixed. We are waiting for Nick to fix his internet. Oh, mine there too. Well, he just joined the second time. So
All right, this is much better. Okay. Yeah, I'm good now. Thank you guys. Sorry for the trouble.
There are two of you. Is that like an audio thing or?
Yeah, I just joined on my phone because of audio. I could leave with my computer if you want.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Well, in that case, recess ends, and we can get back to some debating. Last we left off, I just called on Senator Wilkes for a speech in affirmation whenever you're ready. And whenever everyone else is ready.
The chair. Wilkes again, give me an indication if you're not ready. Okay, looks like we're good. Go ahead and get started. Our Congress has made a name for ourselves by staying silent. I don't care who you are, where you're from, or what you look like. You deserve to have a voice and for that voice to be heard. Pass this bill to make noise for the people who don't have the power to do it themselves. So far, every argument coming from the litigation has been defensive at best. None of them even tried to prove that you lose something on net when you pass this bill. If every time we looked at a bill and said that there are minor things that could be done better and then failed the bill, we would never get anything done. Make the neg do better if they want to win your ballot. So the primary reason you pass legislation is it improves the home environment of children with mental health issues. Now, right now, a lot of children with mental health issues live in households that aren't prepared or properly equipped to handle their challenges. PBS NewsHour found in 2019 that most parents feel like they are not adequately equipped to handle the mental health challenges of their children, or believe mental illnesses aren't a problem in the first place. As a result, family relationships are diminished and mental illnesses are exacerbated. Senator Malala, the reason that parents aren't accepting in a status quo is because they are uneducated about mental health in the first place. Senator Mao, you say training already exists, but parents are still underprepared. There is still an incredibly large issue that needs to be solved. So how does this bill solve those issues? Section 1 provides grants to inform parents with how to deal and understand the mental health challenges of their children. This ensures that we minimize the amount of parents that aren't fully informed about mental health by giving them all the information they need right at their disposal. The National Association of School Psychologists recently found that simply just giving parents a manual with ways to aid their children with mental health challenges created significantly better relationships in households and improved children's mental health drastically. Just imagine what comprehensive training can do by passing this bill. And anyone can guess why this is important. First off, this decreases the risk of suicide. Ohio State University News concludes on March 23rd of 2020 that having quicker and more constant mental health attention has a significant correlation to lower suicide rates. This bill gives children assistance 24/7, minimizing the impacts of their mental health. But secondarily, better home environments also acts as another reason that mental health is improved by passing. An Innovation Aging meta-analysis from November of 2017 found that families with better relationships have far lower rates of suicide. It is incredibly difficult to have a healthy mental state when your parents don't understand it on a basic level. This legislation ensures that less children have to go through that pain. Listen, we can echo the things we all agree are important all we want, but for the person who didn't even get the chance to be heard, speak up for them with your vote.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. Senator Beer.
Hey, Senator, when it comes to mental health illnesses, what should we prioritize, accessibility or quality?
Both are important.
Okay, so if we can prove that accessibility increases but quality decreases, why is that a beneficial thing?
Quality can't decrease, you're just making more things that you can access.
Why? Like, this isn't traditional funding, we're creating a government subsidy.
all the current programs won't go away when you pass. You're just adding in addition to those
Hold on. Are we directly funding the programs or are we creating a government subsidy?
It's a government subsidy. I don't understand how giving people more money is going to make the quality worse.
So does a government subsidy have zero difference than any other form of funding?
I mean, there's minor differences. It's not monumental enough to where it's going to change the quality of the care.
Like what's happened in the past when we created a government subsidy for education specifically?
Like we fund a lot of things for education. Like that's
sure, but like a government subsidy for education specifically, what happened the last time?
We subsidize the public school system. Like that's not like you can't just throw a blanket statement.
Thank you, Senators. Any other questioners? Senator Biram, would you like another block? Right. Seeing no interest, chair absorbs. All speakers on the negation, please raise your placards. Senator Biram, unopposed.
Howdy, everyone. This is Senator Biram speaking for the second final time today. I'm at the leisure of all any indication if you're not ready. Awesome. I'll get started. In 1883, the first comprehensive mental health manuscript was published. 1.5 centuries later, we stand at a crossroad. Do not mistake progressive policy for short-sighted policy. Fail this legislation. The principal reason you fail this legislation is because it worsens the quality of mental health counseling. So far, every speaker on the affirmative champions the idea of aid with mental health problems, but no one has looked at the fine print of the bill. This is lethal because although we create a government subsidy, not a single speaker has actually analyzed what a subsidy entails. Let me do that for you. The University of Michigan Law School found in July of 2017 that every time we create a subsidy for education, it cripples the education quality. Why? Senator Edevelopati, it's because education is uniquely cost intensive. And that requires a constant stream of funding in order to pay for this service. As a result, when the services are free for the people who use them, the market costs skyrocket. What does this look like? While people can still use the service, the education provider cuts costs because the costs are inflated in the market. This is tangibly proven through past precedents. The Foundation for Economic Education found just 1 week ago that when we passed a nearly identical bill for higher education, most people had access to higher education, but the textbooks, teachers, and services were massively worse off because the market costs exceeded that which the government was capable of funding through the subsidy. Creating a subsidy for mental health follows that same path. This is the critical analysis that my side has ignored, and it delinks to Senator Edevelopati, Wilkes, and Leong, cutting them off from their impacts. But even if you don't buy that line of analysis, let's compare every impact that the affirmation has told you. Senator Edevelopati and Wilkes tell you that more people will have access to programs, therefore you can diagnose and have more cost-effective treatment. I would argue that even if you believe an increase in accessibility happens, you prefer quality over accessibility, because mental health counseling can literally be the difference between life and death. It is better for an individual to have no counseling than bad counseling. Dr. Marcy Hertz found in the American Journal of Pediatrics that individuals who went to low-quality counselors were 4 times more likely to have their condition worsen or have more frequent occurrences of depression, anxiety, and self-harm. This is the biggest, most important impact in this round, and it fundamentally outweighs anything the affirmation tells you. This also turns the advocacy that Senator Edevelopati, Wilkes, and Leong tell you. In this debate, you prefer quality above accessibility, and I just proved why. This is the unique harm that Senator Moe and Medela failed at explaining that Senator Wilkes asked for. When individuals have their worst enemies gnawing at their psyche every single day, this Congress should not be one of the enemies to fail this legislation.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. All right, that will go first to Senator Wilkes.
Subsidies worsen quality, you say, right?
Yeah.
We defund the public school system.
No, like public school is uniquely different. Like you can solve it and fund them without subsidies. By giving funding directly to a school, that gives them the unique supplies they need.
The market gets worse. Why?
Because a subsidy is uniquely inherent to that because it's a physical government entity.
Why? Like, what does that mean? Like, you just say
you have the government creating a subsidy, which is money flowing into a system, the market costs increase, which the government can't account for. Like $5 million doesn't account for that.
Market cost increase. What do you mean by that?
Like inflation, definitionally inflation. If you're funding and pouring money in, costs increase, the government can't solve for it.
Mental health, so costs are going to go up.
Yeah, so costs aren't only applied to goods, right? Like costs apply to people and services. Like mental health counselors aren't like free.
Aren't grant programs supposed to like be free?
A grant program is through a subsidy, no. Like that's exactly what happened with public and higher education.
Thank you, Senator Edevalpati.
First, Senator, I'd like to go bounce to the previous line question. You said if like a grant is with a subsidy, where does it say that we're doing that? Aren't we just doing a grant that subsidizes?
No. Like a grant that subsidizes is a subsidy.
Okay, let's move further on that. And then for like the for subsidies, right? So are you saying that every time we put money into an educational program or something like that, that the inflation or whatever you're talking about is still going to occur?
Oh no, it's unique to subsidies for the reason that when you put money into a government entity and that government entity then funds it directly into a program, the costs in that specific sector uniquely increase.
Wait, I don't get how does it increase?
Like that's just
the word's missing. Like
when you put funding into a system and the government does that funding, like that's inherent to the economy.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
So
with,
you're saying we should never pass legislation that helps mental illness.
It's the same thing with a minimum wage. Like you're increasing.
Legislation will be from the government, right? So we should never do that, right?
No.
Thank you, senators. Time has elapsed. All speakers on the affirmation, please raise your placards. Right. Off of speaking order, that goes to Senator Delgado.
I thank the chair. Hello, everyone. My name is Senator Emma Delgado, speaking for the second and last time during this chamber. If I could have any, I will be timing myself on my iPad on airplane mode. If the judges could give me any indication of when they are ready, and the PO as well, that would be great. Thank you. Perfect. For more than 25 years, Ned and Nancy Schaefer have worried about one of their sons who have suffered from schizophrenia. While their friends send their children off to college, the couple were struggling to find a diagnosis and treatment for their son. While other parents celebrated at their children's weddings, the Schaefers took their son to psychiatrists. While others were preparing to retire, the Schaefers were struggling with the financial aspects of their son's illness. But their concerns went beyond what insurance would cover and how they would pay for what insurance did not, including their son's food and apartment and for their education. There are many painful emotional issues surrounding crises like mental health to focus on. Parents deserve to be relieved and to be educated so that they will not later be financially bound to unimportant causes that come with mental illnesses as well. We need to help support the parents of the mentally ill as well as the mentally ill themselves. Pass this bill. Those who are mentally ill tend to need more care and attention. Mental health is a huge issue that is not recognized as that. 56% of U.S. adults with a mental health condition who do not receive proper treatment, according to the 2016 Mental Health America report, and 6 in 10 out of young people with major illnesses do not receive or can afford treatment. Mental illnesses are a problem as established above, and instead of avoiding the best treatment for their children due to being uninformed, parents should be able to afford the best treatment for their children and understand why their children needs this treatment. By passing this bill, we can save lives. The rate of increase in suicides is 24%, according to data from the CDC, and most of it is from neglect. Those who die by suicide are often dealing with undiagnosed, untreated, or undertreated mental health issues. With educated parents, guardians will be able to treat and take care of their children more effectively, lowering the undertreated mental health issue statistics. With trained and educated parents, they will be able to know how to take care of their children, not only in the doctor's office, but at the care of their own homes as well, preventing the disastrous consequences. Vote for the affirmation. Moreover, education can help reveal stress from the person who is suffering. Helping to raise a child who has a mental health condition can be very stressful. In fact, according to NPR, 13% of parents with mentally ill children feel unfit to care for their child and have negative results due to this, including becoming stressed. Legal guardians should not feel like they cannot connect and help their children. Parents do not want to feel helpless. By providing thorough education for parents and not just a couple of internet sources, as Senator Bodapati suggested, parents can feel like they have control over their children's lives. With a more educated population, many more mentally ill people could be identified. For those who are informed about the mentally ill and can notice signs in many people, they can help an undiagnosed mentally ill person find help. In fact, if
Thank you,
even
Senator. Time has elapsed. Thank you for that speech of 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. Senator Leong.
Hi, Senator. Great speech. So can you tell me how providing this grant will incentivize parents to go to programs?
Well, basically, they will be more educated and they could care for their children. They could know what's going on and how they can help them.
Yeah, but what if like the parent isn't willing to go to the program? What then?
Well, I mean, the parents who, at least this will be helping the parents who are willing to go to the program. I mean, we have to start from somewhere, and this is a good place to start. And then we can eventually deal with those who do not want to go to the program. But right now, we can deal with those who do.
Okay. Also, you mentioned that we have undiagnosed patients, right? So how will giving parents education about mental illnesses help them with their undiagnosed child?
Of course, I was going to get to that. If even 5% more of our population can identify the signs of the mentally ill, 100,000 more people could be helped and diagnosed of the mental illnesses. So if parents are educated about them, they
Thank you, Senator Bodapali.
Hi, so under today's legislation, we put towards $5 million towards subsidizing this, correct?
Yes.
So that's a one-time payment. If you want to keep an education system like this going, don't you have to keep putting in money? How would a one-time $5 million payment work?
Well, of course, Congress can figure this out later, but at least we're getting this education system in place for parents to start acting now.
Right, but if you put into place a one-time payment, how can you change that into a constant flowing thing?
Another bill or another resolution. I mean,
Right, so why don't we just pass one resolution or one bill that is doing this so?
Well, I do realize that this isn't a crystal-like situation, but at least we're getting something done. We're doing something instead of just.
I get that, but we're doing it faultily. Why are we doing something wrong when we can just wait for like 2 weeks, make a small change of legislation and do it right?
Why wait when you could already start? I mean,
it's like 2 weeks. You just have to change a couple of words, say that it's constant money going into it, so that you get a constant, better education system for these parents. Correct?
And start another debate. I mean, it would just be easier to pass this.
Thank you, senators. Speakers on the negation, please raise your placards.
Thank you.
Or actually, yes, that goes to Senator Fine.
Firstly, can everyone hear me? I'm a little bit laggy.
Yeah, we can.
All right. I am Senator Fan speaking for the last time this legislative session. If I could get any indication whenever. Ever bitten into a rotten apple, drawn by the nice shiny outside, only to take a bite and reveal a revolting rotten core? Representatives, don't get fooled by the promising surface of this legislation, because the core foundation is rotten all the way through. Negate. The main problem lies in the issues of the DSM-5's failure for diagnostic uses. According to the Institute of Mental Health, the revised criteria illegitimately expanded psychiatric diagnosis into areas of normal range distress and other problems in living, undermining the integrity of psychiatry as a medical discipline, obscuring the meaning of its research results, and potentially leading to unwarranted and possibly harmful treatment. Affirmative speakers, I have nothing against helping educate about mental illness, but understand that the DSM-5 fails to do so. For example, under the new DSM-5, the 2-month criteria for depression has been removed, and therefore it makes it easier to diagnose a grieving person with depression. Most likely, a large number of people experiencing normal symptoms of grief will now be diagnosed with a depressive disorder and placed on medication. Some normal, necessary human reactions can now be medicalized and medicated. With each new edition of the DSM-5, diagnoses are added and discarded, not for maintaining diagnostic accuracy, but for keeping with political pressure on the committee that came up with them and the desire of the authors to make the diagnoses neatly fit in with the effects of psychiatric medication, triggering payments from medical insurance companies. Wonder why? Well, about 68% of all DSM-5 task force members and 56% of panel members reported having financial ties to the pharmaceutical industry. The manual is built to benefit big pharma, not the people. The APA's deep dependence on the publishing profits generated by the DSM-5 business enterprise also created a far less pure motivation. There's an inherent and influential conflict of interest between the DSM-5 public trust and DSM-5 as a book. When its deadlines were consistently missed due to poor planning and disorganized implementation, APA chose to quietly cancel field testing steps that were meant to provide it with badly needed opportunity for quality control. The current copy was thus prematurely rushed to the press with incomplete testing just so that the APA could fill its funding gap. Not only do you inaccurately teach legal guardians based on flawed diagnoses, except for autism, all the DSM-5 changes loosen diagnosis and threaten to turn our current diagnostic inflation into diagnostic hyperinflation. In short, there are two main impacts: overdiagnosis and misdiagnosis. Overdiagnosis and mental health risks unnecessary tests and treatments, and the stigma associated with being labeled mentally ill, Representative Leon, contrary to what you state. And the considerable cost of testing, treatment, and wasting resources that could be better utilized elsewhere, just like how previous negation speakers have already said. The effects of misdiagnosis are also obvious. It keeps people from receiving treatment of their affliction, allowing distress to grow unchecked as hope diminishes. Senators, I agree with the affirmation that acting upon mental illness is necessary. But when we diagnose based on DSM-5 at our core, we see a net loss. When the very core of this legislation is
Thank you,
rotten,
Senator. Time has elapsed. Thank you for that speech of 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. Any and all questioners. All right, that will go to Senator Advalpati.
Thank you. Senator, just a quick question. Like, where does it say we're treating on the bill?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'll repeat that. Where does it say we're treating in the legislation?
Under section 2, it's mental illness refers to you. You're basically using the diagnostic.
I think section
statistical
2
manual to
says
make
educational programs, right? Or am I wrong?
Section 2 also states that mental illness will be based on diagnosis of DSM-5.
Okay, yeah, but aren't we just educating the parents rather than actually treating the people who are like victims? So aren't we just like, isn't this just like helpful education?
I already told you about that. DSM-5 in it itself is flawed. It provides inaccurate information.
Okay, but what I'm saying is like, what's in the harm for like the people that may have like minimal depression? Because we're only just educating them. We're not treating anyone.
Okay, when
it's
parents
the parents' decision that they would like
when
to do
parents are being educated based off of the DSM-5, they are given like the symptoms, right? If they're able to identify.
Would anyone else like to question? Senator Advalpati, would you like another block?
Yeah, sure. Okay, let's take your argument in the highest ground, right? And say like we don't give these educational free programs that have been proven to help people. Where do you think like adults will go to if like they feel concerned about their child's health?
Psychiatrists, doctors.
Right. Okay. And then what does a
physicians.
psychiatrist kind of like, what do they use to metric like what a mental illness is? It's the same DSM.
Contrary to what you may believe, actually, psychiatrists are actually moving away from using the DSM-5 because they understand that it's flawed.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that aren't there still psychiatrists that like aren't like in the net benefit? Aren't we first like benefiting the people that can't like have it, and also help the psychiatrists who are probably already
benefiting because you're posing a risk to people's health.
But
by using DSM-5.
Okay. If your whole argument is based on the minor tweak of the DSM-5, like what stops an amendment from occurring?
It's not minor though. You have to completely alter the core in which this legislation is based on.
No, but that's just like the metric, right? So can we just amend that?
Thank you, senators. All speakers on the affirmation, please raise your placards. Senator Lee.
All right, I thank the chair, seeing as this is my last time speaking this legislative session, I am at the leisure of those above me. Please give me any indication when you're ready. All right, thanks. When you plant a tree, it has all capabilities to grow. However, when you put a box over that tree, you essentially block it from its necessities. You block it from sunlight, nutrients, and you block it from water and rainfall that it needs to grow. In the context of the status quo, we are dealing with the development of children. We are dealing with the development of them in the context of mental health issues. Education is vital to the cultivation of America's future generation. By passing this bill, we grant seeds of fruition that grow amongst the future generations. Addressing mental health is vital to the future of our country. Affirm. First, this bill will improve the lives and mental states of children today and in the future, as the affirmation has stated. But in what ways are they actually being impacted what ways are they being negatively impacted if no action is taken? According to Mental Health America, parents with poorly addressed mental illnesses put them and their children at a higher risk of poverty, occupational or marital difficulties, poor parent-child communication, parent substance abuse, and risk of hurting the child, in addition to aggressiveness and hostility from the parents. Children are at more risk than ever, with, according to the CDC, 1 out of 14 children having a parent with a mental illness that is poorly addressed, and thus they are at risk. Children and parents need adequately funded programs to prevent these risks from delaying their fruition. Second, passing this bill will help children access the mental health resources they need. As Senator Malaya stated, on the negation side, 1 out of 7 children get the help they need due to stigma preventing them from being able to access mental health resources. Senator Moe already stated that tens of thousands are already accessing programs, but what about those in these stigmatized households where mental health is not a topic of discussion? Children hold the belief, according to the U.S. National Institute of Health, many children hold the belief that mental health is stigmatized in their households, and that their family implores them to keep silent about mental health issues. However, a meta-analysis states that adequate education in mental health reduces stigma related to mental illness, psychosis, depression, and a plethora of other mental health issues. Essentially, passing this bill will help educate parents who stigmatize mental health within their households, and in turn allow children to access the mental health resources they need that are being funded by this bill. This bill allows children to access mental health without the stigma of their parents, and they will no longer feel trapped. We lift the box of stigma and mental health off of these children, allowing to grow and develop adequately in order to help America in the future. Affirm.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech of 2 minutes and 49 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. First, that will go to Senator Fan.
Hi, Representative. Great speech. So could you clarify this for me? Don't legal guardians have to take initiative to go take the courses?
Yes. However, these programs can also be sponsored by companies that these parents work at or other factors like that where parents will
They still have to willingly go, correct?
Well, yeah, but if they want to help their children.
Okay, so if they're in a stigmatized household, why would they even take the courses?
Well, essentially these courses can get these parents to take their courses in order to help them
How
with
will
their
they
children.
get the parents to take their courses if you already state that lots of parents are under the impression
Well, parents
of
want to help their
stigmatization?
children, right?
Well, you just stated the impacts of stigmatization.
Yeah, but if they learn, then the stigmatization goes down.
But they have to willingly take the courses to overcome that barrier, right? How are they going to take them?
Thank you, Pio. Building off the previous questioning, if the parents already believe that mental health is not an issue, why would they they're stigmatized against it? Why would they want to learn more about it?
They would want to learn more about it in order to benefit their children. They don't necessarily have to go sign up for these programs. These programs can be sponsored by companies and businesses that their parents work at. If these companies want their children to help release the stigma of mental health in order to benefit America as a whole in the future, then by all means they would want to sponsor a mental health initiative in order to help the future generation of America.
And do you have any examples of any companies ever doing a mental health initiative?
Well, yeah, there are many companies that have sponsored mental health initiatives such as this. While I do not have any specific names, I know that there are companies that sponsor for mental health in order to help their employees have higher functioning and have more worker productivity.
Thank you, Senators. Time has elapsed. We're now in line for our final speech, a speech in negation. Speakers, please raise your placards. Senator Bodupally, you have the floor.
Thank you. It's Senator Bodupally speaking for the second and last time legislative session. Whenever my judges, PO, everyone's ready, I'll get started. Awesome. Judge Antula, you good? Awesome. Let's get started. Sarah is a 13-year-old girl who has depression. Her parents have the generic stigma that many people of their generation have. Mental health isn't a thing, it's just a phase. But the thing is, mental health is one of the most notable problems in our status quo. And the affirmation is exactly right. Helping these parents should be a priority for us. But this legislation is not how we should be going about it. I want to spend the next 3 minutes of my speech explaining to this Congress why that is the case. Principally, you negate to understand that we should target awareness in the status quo. Senator Liang bases her advocacy around the fact that we need to increase awareness to help more people understand the mental health problem. And I actually agree, but allow me to prove to you where her advocacy falls short. In our status quo, mental health awareness is at a high like never before, and that's amazing. But my problem with today's legislation is the fact that parents typically do not accept their children's mental illness. Tori Richards, a child health counselor, explains as of 2017, when her dad showed up, he was extremely annoyed, yelled at her for not being lazy, for not being able to communicate with them, and said that she wasn't suffering from depression, she was just lazy. He said that she was failing school because she slept all the time, didn't do her homework, didn't want to be involved with her family, and seemed aloof. Sarah's parents don't think mental health matters and think that it's just a phase. Senator Yadavalpati tells us that mental health is a massive problem, and he too is exactly right. My problem with the status quo, however, is the fact that mental health is often neglected, not only by parents, but as students as well. Life Adventures explains this as of September 2019. Society generally believes that there are necessary behaviors a caregiver must provide in order for a child to develop physically, socially, and emotionally. Causes of neglect may result from severe parenting problems, including mental disorders, substance abuse, domestic violence, unemployment, unplanned pregnancy, and poverty. Senator Delgado, parents in our status quo have the stigma that children need to be raised tough. This is because in their generation, they were raised with the idea that mental health isn't a thing. The reality, however, is the fact that this is actually a massive problem. Under today's legislation, you leave it to the hands of the parents to make the decision. And I actually agree with every single one of the affirmation's claims. But Senator Wilkes, you tell us that this legislation helps the children of our country. But that is predicated on the fact that parents will actually turn to this government subsidized program under today's legislation in order to get educated. Senator Lee, parents are stigmatized, but today's legislation does absolutely nothing to solve it. The sad truth is simply the fact that Sarah's parents simply just don't care. If we want to pass legislation like the one in front of us today, I ask us to keep as a priority informing these parents that mental health problems are a real problem. Only then will you prove to parents that legislation like this will work, and only then will Sarah get the help she so needs. But I want to talk about the clash regarding subsidies and how that affects quality. Senator Wilkes asked Senator Biram why quality goes down under today's legislation. I think the affirmation has mischaracterized the negation's claim. When you fund a system all at once, the quality decreases in the long term because they start to run out of funds from the government. If you want good quality, however, we should be passing legislation that keeps funding the system instead of subsidizing it with a one-time payment. Senator Wilkes makes the comparison to the school system. The key difference is the fact that we continue funding the school system at a constant rate. Today's legislation does not. Sarah's mental health problems will only get worse if she's gotten bad help. Don't make her or anyone else go through that under today's legislation. I want to help people with mental health illnesses as much as the next person, but today's legislation isn't
you, Senator.
so.
Time has
That's why I
elapsed.
stand negation.
Thank you for that speech of 3 minutes and 18 seconds. Questioners, please raise your placards. Senator Wilkes.
So if every time we look at a bill and we're like, there are certain groups this bill won't help, will we ever get anything done?
Well, it's not more certain groups. I feel like you need to change the stigma that parents have, and then you can affect a wider population than what you propose.
What can we help them with future legislation?
Right. What I'm saying is if we pass something like this, if we just pass it once, it's all good and like we solve all the problems, then you don't have to pass further legislation because I see perfection in the Congress.
That's contingent on us not wanting to pass another one of these bills in the future. Why don't you just do that too?
When we're elected as a Congress, the people have in mind that we have priorities and morals that are aiming for perfection, that are best for our constituents.
Give them more money later. Like what's
right.
the
No, so all I'm saying is if why not just give them money under a new legislation in like a couple of weeks?
Every time we say that, we're never gonna do it, right? We're all just like, yeah.
No, if you by issuing money at a constant rate, you solve all my problems. So yes, you will solve the problem.
I mean, you want to put more money, right? So let's just do that.
Yes, I want to put more money into it, which is why
Thank you. Senator, if you negate this legislation today, are we going to go back to like tomorrow, have a new bill proposed, or the status quo?
I mean, tomorrow will be status quo, but until we
status quo, right? So
aren't
in the long term, aren't people still getting affected? And like,
I'm saying,
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I feel like you messed up my advocacy. I'm not advocating against this bill. I'm saying that we're implementing it in a wrong way. Once you prioritize awareness towards parents so you get rid of the stigma and you issue the money in a proper way, only then will you see the results the affirmation aspect.
Okay, let's take your stigma, for example, right? I gave a card that said 25% of Americans said that they know that they have a serious illness, but they can't pay for
25% of Americans isn't a large proportion.
But aren't we still helping those 25% in the end?
Right, you can help all 100% if you follow my line of reasoning.
Like I said, is some change better than no change?
No, I'm advocating for change, but I'm saying if you pass legislation down the line that targets the awareness as well as education, then you get 100% rather than 25%.
You say yourself tomorrow we're going back to the status quo. Shouldn't we at least help those 25%?
In the next week, we'll go pass some legislation.
Thank you, senators. Time has elapsed. Seeing as everyone has spoken, the chair will automatically move the previous question. So we'll go to voting procedure. Everyone in favor of passing today's legislation, please raise your placards to keep them up. Count Malala, Delgado, Lee, Liang, Wilkes, Edavalapati, 6. All right, everyone who wants to defeat today's legislation, please raise your placards. Mo, Vera, Fan, go to Polly. 4. On a vote of 6 to 4 to 0, today's legislation does pass. So congratulations to the sponsor and congratulations to the chamber for doing more than Congress will usually do in any given legislative session. Are there any motions at this time? Senator Wilkes.
Move to adjourn.
Seconds? All in favor? Any objections? If not, we are adjourned. It has been a pleasure to preside this round, this final round. We got through 20 speeches and 38 questions. Everyone did a fantastic job. And with that, I will turn it over to Joey.
Hey guys, thank you so much. That was a wonderful round. Congratulations to everyone. For our judges, make sure to get ranks in. You can stick around for awards if you want, but you're not obliged to. So if you want to just get in with your day, go ahead. We will also be sending out results in the Discord, so you can just see them there later. But yeah, congratulations everyone. And I believe Jimmy has some words for all y'all.
Yeah, so I got more coming up, y'all. In the meantime, while the judges are putting in ranks, I want you guys to do your ranks of your own. So basically, it's CFC tradition to have a finals leadership bowl at every single tournament, where like the competitors select like a peer-selected champion of their own to decide like who the people think are the best competitors in the room. So if you guys could just quickly fill it out, it's a pretty simple form. You only have to rank like the top 6 in the round. So yeah. Once like I get like all responses for the student leadership bowl, I'm actually going to play like a quick video from like the Trevor Project, which is the nonprofit organization we're actually fundraising for. So as you guys know, this tournament is like completely free, but at the same time we want to use it as like a fundraising opportunity. And just to give you guys a little bit more information on the Trevor Project, it's a nonprofit organization working to provide suicide prevention services towards LGBTQ+ youth. So basically that's also why we had like a mental health debate today, so it kind of connects to that issue, which we're fundraising for throughout this summer. So like once I see a lot of responses, I'm going to play the video, and then on the live stream, I'm just going to play the video right now. So yeah.
Pride is here, and it's never been the same. For some, it's a return to hope, to joy, to connection. For others, it's a time for action, to reimagine an even better future. But for many LGBTQ young people, pride is out of reach. They are still isolated from supportive communities. They struggle to see pride in their world, or even to feel proud of who they are. Our world is starting to look more familiar, but the events of the past year will have a lasting impact on the mental health of LGBTQ young people who felt the realities of 2020 disproportionately. For them, the Trevor Project has been and will be here. With crisis services via text, chat, and phone, always 24/7 and always free, we are here, wherever and however they need us. But Trevor can't do it alone. You can be here for LGBTQ young people too, in so many ways. Acceptance from at least one adult can reduce the risk of LGBTQ youth suicide by 40%. So this Pride, a supportive call or text, or even just using the right pronoun, could mean more than you know. It could even save a life. I am proud to join the Trevor Project, along with our national Pride partner Macy's, to be here for LGBTQ young people this Pride season. They're working to make sure no one is left behind. Macy's has helped Trevor to support over 26,000 LGBTQ youth in crisis. So join us and show them that you're here too. Pride is here, and it's never been the same. For some, it's a return to hope, to joy, to connection. For others, it's a time for action, to reimagine an even better future. But for many LGBTQ young people, pride is out of reach. They are still isolated from supportive communities. They struggle to see pride in their world, or even to feel proud of who they are. Our world is starting to look more familiar, but the events of the past year will have a lasting impact on the mental health of LGBTQ young people who felt the realities of 2020 disproportionately. For them, the Trevor Project has been and will be here. With crisis services via text, chat, and phone, always 24/7 and always free, we are here, wherever and however they need us. But Trevor can't do it alone. You can be here for LGBTQ young people too, in so many ways. Acceptance from at least one adult can reduce the risk of LGBTQ youth suicide by 40%. So this Pride, a supportive call or text, or even just using the right pronoun, could mean more than you know. It could even save a life. I am proud to join the Trevor Project, along with our national Pride partner Macy's, to be here for LGBTQ young people this Pride season. They're working to make sure no one is left behind. Macy's has helped Trevor to support over 26,000 LGBTQ youth in crisis. So join us and show them that you're here too. Pride is here, and it's never been the same. For some, it's a return to hope, to joy, to connection. For others, it's a time for action, to reimagine an even better future. But for many LGBTQ young people, pride is out of reach. They are still isolated from supportive communities. They struggle to see pride in their world, or even to feel proud of who they are. Our world is starting to look more familiar, but the events of the past year will have a lasting impact on the mental health of LGBTQ young people who felt the realities of 2020 disproportionately. For them, the Trevor Project has been and will be here. With crisis services via text, chat, and phone, always 24/7 and always free, we are here, wherever and however they need us. But Trevor can't do it alone. You can be here for LGBTQ young people too, in so many ways. Acceptance from at least one adult can reduce the risk of LGBTQ youth suicide by 40%. So this Pride, a supportive call or text, or even just using the right pronoun, could mean more than you know. It could even save a life. I am proud to join the Trevor Project, along with our national Pride partner Macy's, to be here for LGBTQ young people this Pride season. They're working to make sure no one is left behind. Macy's has helped Trevor to support over 26,000 LGBTQ youth in crisis. So join us and show them that you're here too. Pride is here, and it's never been the same. For some, it's a return to hope, to joy, to connection. For others, it's a time for action, to reimagine an even better future. But for many LGBTQ young people, pride is out of reach. They are still isolated from supportive communities. They struggle to see pride in their world, or even to feel proud of who they are. Our world is starting to look more familiar, but the events of the past year will have a lasting impact on the mental health of LGBTQ young people who felt the realities of 2020 disproportionately. For them, the Trevor Project has been and will be here. With crisis services via text, chat, and phone, always 24/7 and always free, we are here, wherever and however they need us. But Trevor can't do it alone. You can be here for LGBTQ young people too, in so many ways. Acceptance from at least one adult can reduce the risk of LGBTQ youth suicide by 40%. So this Pride, a supportive call or text, or even just using the right pronoun, could mean more than you know. It could even save a life. I am proud to join the Trevor Project, along with our national Pride partner Macy's, to be here for LGBTQ young people this Pride season. They're working to make sure no one is left behind. Macy's has helped Trevor to support over 26,000 LGBTQ youth in crisis. So join us and show them that you're here too. Pride is here, and it's never been the same. For some, it's a return to hope, to joy, to connection. For others, it's a time for action, to reimagine an even better future. But for many LGBTQ young people, pride is out of reach. They are still isolated from supportive communities. They struggle to see pride in their world, or even to feel proud of who they are. Our world is starting to look more familiar, but the events of the past year will have a lasting impact on the mental health of LGBTQ young people who felt the realities of 2020 disproportionately. For them, the Trevor Project has been and will be here. With crisis services via text, chat, and phone, always 24/7 and always free, we are here, wherever and however they need us. But Trevor can't do it alone. You can be here for LGBTQ young people too, in so many ways. Acceptance from at least one adult can reduce the risk of LGBTQ youth suicide by 40%. So this Pride, a supportive call or text, or even just using the right pronoun, could mean more than you know. It could even save a life. I am proud to join the Trevor Project, along with our national Pride partner Macy's, to be here for LGBTQ young people this Pride season. They're working to make sure no one is left behind. Macy's has helped Trevor to support over 26,000 LGBTQ youth in crisis. So join us and show them that you're here too. Pride is here, and it's never been the same. For some, it's a return to hope, to joy, to connection. For others, it's a time for action, to reimagine an even better future. But for many LGBTQ young people, pride is out of reach. They are still isolated from supportive communities. They struggle to see pride in their world, or even to feel proud of who they are. Our world is starting to look more familiar, but the events of the past year will have a lasting impact on the mental health of LGBTQ young people who felt the realities of 2020 disproportionately. For them, the Trevor Project has been and will be here. With crisis services via text, chat, and phone, always 24/7 and always free, we are here, wherever and however they need us. But Trevor can't do it alone. You can be here for LGBTQ young people too, in so many ways. Acceptance from at least one adult can reduce the risk of LGBTQ youth suicide by 40%. So this Pride, a supportive call or text, or even just using the right pronoun, could mean more than you know. It could even save a life. I am proud to join the Trevor Project, along with our national Pride partner Macy's, to be here for LGBTQ young people this Pride season. They're working to make sure no one is left behind. Macy's has helped Trevor to support over 26,000 LGBTQ youth in crisis. So join us and show them that you're here too. Pride is here, and it's never been the same. For some, it's a return to hope, to joy, to connection. For others, it's a time for action, to reimagine an even better future. But for many LGBTQ young people, pride is out of reach. They are still isolated from supportive communities. They struggle to see pride in their world, or even to feel proud of who they are. Our world is starting to look more familiar, but the events of the past year will have a lasting impact on the mental health of LGBTQ young people who felt the realities of 2020 disproportionately. For them, the Trevor Project has been and will be here. With crisis services via text, chat, and phone, always 24/7 and always free, we are here, wherever and however they need us. But Trevor can't do it alone. You can be here for LGBTQ young people too, in so many ways. Acceptance from at least one adult can reduce the risk of LGBTQ youth suicide by 40%. So this Pride, a supportive call or text, or even just using the right pronoun, could mean more than you know. It could even save a life. I am proud to join the Trevor Project, along with our national Pride partner Macy's, to be here for LGBTQ young people this Pride season. They're working to make sure no one is left behind. Macy's has helped Trevor to support over 26,000 LGBTQ youth in crisis. So join us and show them that you're here too. Pride is here, and it's never been the same. For some, it's a return to hope, to joy, to connection. For others, it's a time for action, to reimagine an even better future. But for many LGBTQ young people, pride is out of reach. They are still isolated from supportive communities. They struggle to see pride in their world, or even to feel proud of who they are. Our world is starting to look more familiar, but the events of the past year will have a lasting impact on the mental health of LGBTQ young people who felt the realities of 2020 disproportionately. For them, the Trevor Project has been and will be here. With crisis services via text, chat, and phone, always 24/7 and always free, we are here, wherever and however they need us. But Trevor can't do it alone. You can be here for LGBTQ young people too, in so many ways. Acceptance from at least one adult can reduce the risk of LGBTQ youth suicide by 40%. So this Pride, a supportive call or text, or even just using the right pronoun, could mean more than you know. It could even save a life. I am proud to join the Trevor Project, along with our national Pride partner Macy's, to be here for LGBTQ young people this Pride season. They're working to make sure no one is left behind. Macy's has helped Trevor to support over 26,000 LGBTQ youth in crisis. So join us and show them that you're here too. Pride is here, and it's never been the same. For some, it's a return to hope, to joy, to connection. For others, it's a time for action, to reimagine an even better future. But for many LGBTQ young people, Pride is out of reach. They are still isolated from supported communities. They struggle to see pride in their world, or even to feel proud of who they are. Our world is starting to look more familiar, but the events of the past year will have a lasting impact on the mental health of LGBTQ young people who felt the realities of 2020 disproportionately. For them, the Trevor Project has been and will be here. With crisis services via text, chat, and phone, always 24/7 and always free, we are here, wherever and however they need us. But Trevor can't do it alone. You can be here for LGBTQ young people too, in so many ways. Acceptance from at least one adult can reduce the risk of LGBTQ youth suicide by 40%. So this Pride, a supportive call or text, or even just using the right pronoun, could mean more than you know. It could even save a life. I am proud to join the Trevor Project, along with our national Pride partner Macy's, to be here for LGBTQ young people this Pride season. They're working to make sure no one is left behind. Macy's has helped Trevor to support over 26,000 LGBTQ youth in crisis. So join us and show them that you're here too. Pride is here, and it's never been the same. For some, it's a return to hope, to joy, to connection. For others, it's a time for action, to reimagine an even better future. But for many LGBTQ young people, Pride is out of reach. They are still isolated from supported communities. They struggle to see pride in their world, or even to feel proud of who they are. Our world is starting to look more familiar, but the events of the past year will have a lasting impact on the mental health of LGBTQ young people who felt the realities of 2020 disproportionately. For them, the Trevor Project has been and will be here. With crisis services via text, chat, and phone, always 24/7 and always free, we are here, wherever and however they need us. But Trevor can't do it alone. You can be here for LGBTQ young people too, in so many ways. Acceptance from at least one adult can reduce the risk of LGBTQ youth suicide by 40%. So this Pride, a supportive call or text, or even just using the right pronoun, could mean more than you know. It could even save a life. I am proud to join the Trevor Project, along with our national Pride partner Macy's, to be here for LGBTQ young people this Pride season. They're working to make sure no one is left behind. Macy's has helped Trevor to support over 26,000 LGBTQ youth in crisis. So join us and show them that you're here too. Pride is here, and it's never been the same. For some, it's a return to hope, to joy, to connection. For others, it's a time for action, to reimagine an even better future. But for many LGBTQ young people, Pride is out of reach. They are still isolated from supported communities. They struggle to see pride in their world, or even to feel proud of who they are. Our world is starting to look more familiar, but the events of the past year will have a lasting impact on the mental health of LGBTQ young people who felt the realities of 2020 disproportionately. For them, the Trevor Project has been and will be here. With crisis services via text, chat, and phone, always 24/7 and always free, we are here, wherever and however they need us. But Trevor can't do it alone. You can be here for LGBTQ young people too, in so many ways. Acceptance from at least one adult can reduce the risk of LGBTQ youth suicide by 40%. So this Pride, a supportive call or text, or even just using the right pronoun could mean more than you know. It could even save a life. I am proud to join the Trevor Project, along with our national pride partner Macy's, to be here for LGBTQ young people this Pride season. They're working to make sure no one is left behind. Macy's has helped Trevor to support over 26,000 LGBTQ youth in crisis. So join us and show them that you're here too. Pride is here, and it's never been the same. For some, it's a return to hope, to joy, to connection. For others, it's a time for action, to reimagine an even better future. But for many LGBTQ young people, pride is out of reach. They are still isolated. They struggle to see pride in their world, or even to feel proud of who they are. Our world is starting to look more familiar, but the events of the past year will have a lasting impact on the mental health of LGBTQ young people who felt the realities of 2020 disproportionately. For them, the Trevor Project has been and will be here. With crisis services via text, chat, and phone, always 24/7 and always free, we are here, wherever and however they need us. But Trevor can't do.
All right. So looks like our last judges' ranks are all in, so we'll be able to start the award ceremony now.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys so much once again for coming, and thanks to all of our judges. We don't want to hold you over too much longer, so we're going to get straight off with our director and finals PO, Mr. William Tong, reading 12 through 7.
Oh, hold on. One sec. Before that, we need to announce the finals leadership bowl winner. So.
Oh, we're starting with that. Okay.
Nah, it's okay. All right. So huge congratulations to our finals leadership bowl winner, none other than Senator Edavalapati. Congratulations. And then William, go ahead.
Actually, let me just...
And our one drop is accidentally still on the sheet if you're wondering why there's an 11, but you can just start with 10 through 7. So go ahead.
Yeah, so in 10th place, Emma Delgado. Applause. 9th place, Rini Malela. 8th, Johnny Moe. And then in 7th, Ryan Lee.
Okay, just real quick, actually, I forgot. All the directors and judges and everyone whose name we've already called, turn off your camera, and that way we can sort of see the field lowering as we get down to our final couple. So only if you're a competitor who's still in. So yeah, Jimmy, turn your camera off as well. Okay, perfect. So then I believe I'm reading 6 through 4. So we are to our T6 at this point. In 6th place, Helen Leon. In 5th place, Bernala Bodapuli. And in 4th place, Emily Fon.
All right, and now we have our top 3. First of all, I want to just say a huge special recognition to all these top 3 speakers for even making it in the top 3. Huge accomplishment, right? Time for the suspense to go away. In 3rd place, Senator Edavalapati. Congratulations. In 2nd place, Senator Biram. Congratulations. That means that your champion is none other than Senator Ethan Wilkes. Congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone. Congratulations, Ethan. This was a wonderful tournament. So thank you for everyone for coming. And once again, go donate to the Trevor Project. But anyway, I think we're going to call it for here. So thank you, everyone. And hopefully we can see you at our next tournament, the Congressional Debate Off-Season Close-Up.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
Thank you guys for hosting the tournament. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, congratulations.